All right, all right. So we're going to start with verse 1. This is MATITYAHU chapter 5. Remember we went through 1 through 4 before? And so now we're going there with chapter 5. Let's see. Oh, hold on. Ima Oriel, who deemed to you? We got Ima in the house.
Ima in the building.
Tony Green, shalom. Shalom Barakot. BETHSAIDAHU, shalom. Shalom Barakot. All praise to the Most High. All right, let's get it. So chapter verse 1. And seeing the multitudes, he went up on a mountain. And when he was seated, his disciples came to him. So what we're looking at now is this is referring to Yahushua HaMashiach. And the way this is being presented, it's saying, and seeing the multitude, there was a multitude of people. So this is different groups of people. There's a multitude of people. Yahushua went up on, that's who he is. Yahushua went up on a mountain. And when he was seated, his disciples, the disciples is a totally different group than the multitudes. Y'all see what I'm saying? The disciples was his main people. Those were the followers of Yahushua. Those were basically in a sense, you can even say like the leadership. Those were the people directly connected to Yahushua, who were called to basically, to teach and to spread this word. They were an extension of him, his disciples. And so you have the multitude, you had the disciples when it was up on the mountain with him. So the reason why I'm emphasizing this is because what we're about to read, Yahushua was not talking to everybody.
Oh, that wasn't to the whole wide world?
Nope.
Oh, man. I was taught wrong.
Nope. He was talking to only the disciples. And I really believe just understanding that alone will help with reading what we're about to read in MATITYAHU chapter 5 surrounding the context is to know the audience he's talking to. He is talking to the disciples, those who are called as an extension of Yahushua to spread his word, to teach, and to move as leaders in this new order that Yahuwah is establishing on the earth. So let's just keep that in mind. All right. He was seated. His disciples came to him. Then he opened his mouth and taught who? Taught who, Bakir Sargon?
It says he taught them.
They taught who?
He taught them.
He taught them. He didn't teach he wasn't teaching the multitudes. He was teaching his disciples, Mishpaka.
That's right.
He taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of the Shamayim." Now, when we look at the poor in spirit, that's referring to like I'll show y'all. Yahushua isn't coming up with stuff out of anywhere. That is Psalms like 51. Let's go there. Let's see. Here it goes. Verse 17. The sacrifices of Eluah are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart. These, O Eluah, you will not despise. So, in MATITYAHU chapter 5, when Yahushua is saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit," that's associated with that. Dawid said, Yahuwah spoke through Dawid and said, a broken spirit, a contrite heart, that is a sacrifice to Eluah. Things like that, Yahuwah will not despise. And then Yahushua's teaching that, hey man, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Remember, he's talking to the disciples, because this is the type of attributes they were moving in. This is some of the reasons why they were of the chosen. You know, these were people who were of a broken spirit and contrite heart. These were people, you know, who were mourning, you know. And I when he says, blessed are those who mourn, I really, you know, I don't believe this is just referring to just people who just mourn in general. Like, just think about it. You think Yahushua is referring to those who mourn Babylon? No. There's a context to what he's talking about. I submit those who are mourning because of what's happening, mourning the captivity, mourning that the kavod that Yahshua had at one point in time, the kavod, the mourning for the kingdom, because at this time they were in captivity to Rome. The kingdom was being subdued, and it caused the righteous to mourn, y'all. It caused the righteous to grieve. The Kodesh to grieve, but you know, there were people who didn't grieve, even though the kingdom was being subdued, even though Rome was overtaking them. There were people of Yahshua who were flourishing during this time. And they were through with it. They were fine with it. Matter of fact, they actually want to keep things like it is, and will fight you to keep things the status quo because we're flourishing in this captivity. Y'all hear me? Y'all hear me? Because there's people like that today. You got Hebrews today who they not mourning this being in this captivity. They don't mind being in Babylon.
Right.
They love it here. They love this place. And will fight you if you against it. They'll fight you for being against it. They'll come against you and talk to you like you crazy, like you the crazy one. But those who are grieving because of this captivity, yearning for Yahushua, yearning for the kingdom, mourning because our people are subdued, because our people are downtrodden, hungering and thirsting for righteousness, etc., etc. This, I submit, is what Yahushua is talking about. This is what caused them, those disciples, to be chosen. I submit these are the reason why Yahushua was preaching this to them, because these are the traits that they had. These are the traits that they exemplified. They weren't perfect, but they exemplified these specific traits, which will cause Yahuwah to choose them. And I'll submit a lot of the stuff Yahushua was specifically talking against in contrast to a certain people. Pretty much all of the disciples, if not most of them, they were moving under the schools of the Pharisees. They were following Yahuwah the best way they knew. And the way they did that was through the orders of the Pharisees, because the Pharisees were the authorities as far as religiously during that day. It was the Pharisaic order. And so most, if not all of the disciples, they were under that order, and they were following that. And I do submit Yahushua, a lot of the stuff Yahushua was talking about was in direct contrast to what they were experiencing and to the way the Pharisees were moving. Pharisees weren't mourning this captivity. The Pharisees was through with being under Rome. As a matter of fact, the Pharisees were fighting to keep things as it was. because they were flourishing. They had money. Rome made sure they was taken care of. As long as they kept things status quo, as long as they didn't, go past a certain boundary to Rome, Romans kind of let them do what they do. They just couldn't cross certain lines or certain boundaries. They were through with it.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to sin. They were able to do all kinds of iniquities and all that, and they were corrupt. This list goes on and on and on. And so they were not mourning. They were not broken in spirit, poor in spirit. They didn't have a broken spirit and contrite heart. For the most part, I know there was some one-offs, there were some exceptions, but I'm talking for the most part, especially when you're talking the structure, the leadership of the Pharisees. That's how they were moving. And so Yahushua's teaching them the kingdom is going to these people, not the Pharisees. Because the Pharisees were probably teaching, that the kingdom of heaven that's them. It's going to them. And Yahushua's trying to show them, no, it's actually going to y'all. The least expected, the poor in spirit, those who are mourning. The kingdom is here, it's going to y'all. It's not going to them. Do you have anything on that?
Yes, sir. So just proof text for that. If you look at Psalm 137. So we that's a concept we got to learn to accept. Because we're not used to that. Because we're not used to having land. We're not used to having our own. You know what I'm saying? That's not something that we are a people disconnected from a land. So what we do is we try and claim lands that's not ours. This is why you have different gangs. This is why you got, oh, this is my block. Now, what set you from? All of those things come from a people desiring a land. Because any people group in the entire Ritz has to have a land. They have to come from somewhere. Our souls are designed that way because we are Dom. We come from a particular land, and our souls will always long to have that connection with the land, with the physical earth. You know what I'm saying? Now, none of that weird stuff. People get, the remixes be crazy. It ain't none of that weird. The earth is my mother type stuff. And there's some things with that, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the 50, what is it, 51st percenters? I forgot what their names are. It's been so long since I looked at them. But nevertheless, so let's look at what David says here. It says, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yeah, we wept when we remembered Zion. Man. This is exactly what you was talking about. Now, they were in the land of Israel at that time, but they were being ruled over. They had feet on their neck. Rome had crushed them at this time. They had completely subdued them. It's kind of like, imagine you paying, you just bought you a house, and imagine the bank that owns the house moves into the house. Now you got to make them breakfast. You can make you breakfast. That's fine. Make your breakfast, but bring them some. Yeah, you can go work. Yeah, you can clean up. Oh, you can go to the store. You can go buy what you need to buy, but make sure you buy me some too. Everything that we own is portioned to the owners. That's the part about being a don, our master. That's how you know. So anyway, so this is what he's saying here. So let's just read down to verse 6 real quick. He says, we hung our harps upon the willows in the midst of it. I'm at verse 3. For there those who carried us away captive. 2. Okay. Verse 2. We hung our harps upon the willows in the midst of it. For there those who carried us away captive asked of us a song. Okay, verse 3. Oh, wait. Hold on. See, test, echo. All right, we through. All right, verse 3. For there those who carried us away captive asked of us a song, and those who plundered us requested mirth, saying, "Sing us one of the songs of Zion." Now look what he's saying, verse 4. How shall we sing Yahuwah a song in a foreign land? And then he says, if I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget its skill. If I do not remember you, let my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth. If I do not exalt Jerusalem above my chief joy. Like that, them last
Man.
5 words right there. Really 4 words.
Ooh,
Above my chief joy. So
man.
it just go back to what you're saying. So anytime the land is in chaos, the people who really the real people there, they're gonna mourn. So it just ties
Man.
into Matthew 5. This is why they was mourning. This is evidence for what you were saying.
No, that's huge. That's huge. So again, like, you know, just looking at this again in this passage that Bakir Sargon brought out. It says about it in Psalms 137, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yeah, we wept. Wept when we remembered Zion. That's mourning for the kingdom. Blessed are those who mourn. That's why Yahushua said that. For theirs is what? The kingdom. He's not talking about those who I don't know. I submit that it's probably not just talking about somebody who's just randomly mourning anything. Oh, you might mourn. People mourn for a lot of things. Mourn your dead dog or something. You know, your dog you grew up with passed away or something. Or, you know, I submit this is very specific.
Yeah, people mourning in Houston when the Texans lost.
Yeah.
Mourning, crying. I saw it. I saw it on Facebook. I saw
Man,
it.
they were wilding out. Man, they was wilding out at NRG Stadium now. Man, they were wilding out. No, he ain't talking you who's specific. That's why it said, let's go back there. That's why it says, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of the Shamaim. This is why that type of language is associated with the kingdom. Because it's about those who are mourning for the kingdom. There's something that Yahuwah puts in the Kodesh where you start mourning for your own land again. You start mourning for the kingdom. For the days of back when we was ruling. He puts that in his people. Listen, y'all, if you are of the Most High, you're not gonna love this place like that. You're not.
Man. Oh man.
You're not, because this place is wicked. This place is not through. It's wicked. So if you're of the Most High, you're gonna align with the Most High as far as you loving what He loves and you hating what He hates. Generally speaking. And you'll start yearning for the kingdom. All right, let's keep going though. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the eretz. Yeah. So meek goes into being humble. And in the scriptures, being humble is associated with being submitted. Being submitted to Yahuwah. Being obedient and righteous. You know, keeping the commandments. That's basically what it all boils down to. So, basically, those who are humble and submitted, who are righteous, who keep commandments, they're going to inherit the earth. I submit Yahusha is talking to the disciples about this because these are the things that the disciples had in them. These are the characteristics that they exemplified. It's like Yahusha is encouraging them, giving them encouragement, an encouraging word. This is like a leadership. What they call it the beatitudes in the church, you know, MATITYAHU chapter 5. This is like a leadership council meeting between Yahusha and his heads, where he is encouraging his people. He's encouraging his people. Told our fam. Man, for real. Praise Yahushua, man. Praise Yahushua. But I submit Yahushua speaking directly to the things that the disciples exemplified, the characteristics that they exemplified. They were meek. These are people who were mourning the kingdom. These are people who are broken spirit and contrite hearted, who are poor in spirit. He's letting them know, man, y'all are going to inherit the Eretz. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And this is true. You know, except one, this is what happened with the disciples. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. This is all related to each other. When you mourn the kingdom, there's this yearning for righteousness. There's this hunger and thirst that you have for righteousness. There's this yearning for kingdom that you have, and you be grieving because the earth is so wicked. You see the iniquities of your people. You see these things happen, and it's grieving. It causes you to mourn. And it seems, and it even is. It becomes lonely because you feel like you're the only one really trying to do this thing, trying to serve Yahuwah, and it feel like the earth is just wicked. Everybody is against you.
Right.
Everybody think you crazy. Think it don't take all that. And Yahushua's encouraging them, saying, man, listen, nah, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Nah, listen, for they shall be filled. He's talking to these disciples. Like, man, listen, y'all, blessed are y'all, because y'all going to be filled. He said, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see Yahuwah. He letting them know, listen, y'all going to be through. Y'all gonna see Yahuwah, man. Y'all are pure in heart. That's why I chose y'all. Y'all are pure in y'all intentions. I've seen y'all. I've inspected y'all. I've searched y'all out. Blessed are y'all. Y'all are meek. Y'all are humble. Y'all have a broken spirit, contrite heart. I know the trial and tribulations y'all went to get to this place. This is why I've chosen y'all. And y'all are going to inherit the earth. Y'all, the kingdom is yours. The kingdom of the Shamaim is yours, etc., etc. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of Yahuwah. Listen, he's letting them know y'all are sons. He's not talking to the multitude. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of the Shamayim. Man, listen, that's why I know the disciples already were dealing with persecution before the major persecution that they dealt with after following Yahushua. They were already trying to serve Yahuwah. They were already moving in righteousness. They already passed a lot of tests to get to this point, to be chosen. You see what I'm saying? And so because of that, Yahushua's encouraging them, like, listen, y'all gonna be called sons of Yahuwah. That's a big deal, being called sons of Yahuwah now. Y'all know that's what the Malachim from the Shamaim were called, the sons of Yahuwah. The sons of Yahuwah that's a title. But not Elohim, that's title for these celestial beings. There were some that were fallen, that we read about in Bereshit 6, but Yahuwah still even called the sons of Yahuwah. Even the fallen ones. Yeah, the sons of Yahuwah came upon the daughters of men. I'm not going to assume y'all know about that, but we're going to go there real quick. Look at this, Bereshit 6. It came to pass, this is Bereshit 6, or Genesis 6, verse 1. Now it came to pass, when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of Yahuwah saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. That's what led to the flood, because you had these celestial beings that were called B'nai Elohim, or B'nai Yahuwah, the sons of Yahuwah, who they came down and they laid with the daughters of men. You know, they rebelled against the Most High. You go to the book of Job, chapter 1. You see them. You see this title mentioned here as well. Let's see. It's in verse. Good, verse 6. Job 1, verse 6. It says, "Now there was a day when the sons of Eluah came to present themselves before Yahuwah, and Hasatan also came among them. And Yahuwah said to Hasatan, 'From where do you come?' And so Hasatan answered Yahuwah and said, 'From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking back and forth on it.'" But you see, you have these people called the sons of Eluah. There's these celestial beings. These sons of Eluah are sons of light. These are celestial beings that Yahuwah sends on the earth. And so that is the same thing with MATITYAHU, and I mean Yahushua HaMashiach in the book of MATITYAHU says this right here in verse 9. "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of Eluah." Now the Elohim been teaching this. My son brought this up when he was on the road. One of my sons, Zamar, of how, you know, the Elohim been bringing this out about how the peacemakers, you know, the peacemaker isn't just, is that too, but not just, you know, the people about to get in a fight and the person gets in the middle like, "Man, hold on, you know what I'm saying? You know, nah, man, y'all can talk this over. No, y'all can work this out, you know. You know, woo, you know, come on, man, you know, y'all, man, give him a hug. You know what I'm saying? Tell him you're sorry, you know, stuff like that." You know, that's a peacemaker too in a sense. But man, listen, Dawid was a peacemaker. And the way he made peace was through what? Through war.
War, man.
The way he made peace was through fighting, through war. That's how he established peace. Because y'all know what peace really is? We're thinking peace from a Babylonian perspective. The Hebrew word for peace is shalom. Shalom, and the breakdown for shalom, Shin Lamed, Uamim. It's about crushing the authority that's associated with chaos. It's about war. Subduing the authority or crushing the authority that's attached to chaos. So a peacemaker is someone who takes out your enemies, y'all. And how are you going to take out your enemies? By saying, "Hey, man, you know, let's make a deal. Let's talk this over, you know."
Hey, get over there and hug him. I know you put him on some ships. Go give him a hug.
Let's come with a treaty. Let's, you know, because, man, you know, communication, we just got to communicate. You know, that's how, no. When it comes to your brethren, yes. The scriptures is very clear about that. When it comes to your mishpachah, oh yeah, you turn the other cheek, you talk it over, you communicate. You know, a lot of times it's miscommunication what causes issues, things like that. But we be getting it twisted. We be thinking you're supposed to be like with the heathen nations who hate you. No, they not. Ain't no flowers, no olive branch, ain't no talking gonna keep them from hating you and wanting to kill you. And so true shalom is through them being subdued. True shalom is through the authorities that are attached to the chaos is being crushed. That lamed, I know I don't have a slide, but for y'all who are familiar with Hebrew, you know, the lamed also means the teaching and instruction. So shalom, shin lamed, crushing the teachings, the instructions, crushing the doctrines that's associated with chaos too.
Man.
And y'all know Mem, and I know y'all don't have a slide. I know some of y'all may not be super Hebraically acquainted, but just hear me out. We're talking about the Hebraic understanding of the word shalom. It's not really peace. Shalom is a lot more than just peace. But peace is the closest English word that we can translate in English from shalom. But shalom is sheen, lamed, uah, mem. Those are the Hebrew letters that spells shalom. And it's about crushing. Sheen is like two teeth. It's to crush, to afflict, to press. And the lamed can mean an authority, but also can mean a teaching or an instruction. So it's also crushing the doctrines, the teachings, the instructions that's associated to the mem, which also can mean the other nations. Babylon, Mishpaka. It means the mem. It means the waters, the chaos, darkness, which also means the nations. It also can mean languages. The list goes on and on and on. They're all associated with each other. But it's also surrounding crushing the doctrines, y'all, that's associated with Babylon. That's true shalom. And Yahusha, when he's talking to them, he's crushing a lot of ideologies that the Pharisees was trying to bring out, that they really took from other things other than Yahuwah. They adopted from the other nations. What are some things that you've adopted, that you done took hold of, that's an instruction, a teaching, a doctrine that you got from the other nations, that you got from here, that you got from Babylon? True shalom is when you can crush that inside of you, when you can subdue that, Mishpaka. That's how you break free. That's how you have true shalom, because then you can really be yourself, who Yahuwah created you to be, where you could crush those things and subdue those things. Go ahead, Bakir Sargon, if you had something.
I'm just enjoying the ride. I'm on the ride. I'm looking out the window. I'm enjoying the teaching. But hashtag peace is never passive.
Man,
when the nations show up, they bring their tank and they say, "Hey, we came to bring peace." And then the people be like, "What you bring a tank for?" Well, that's for peace too. So they bring it. Peace is never passive. You own it. I'm riding with you. I'm just riding.
it's real talk though. You can't make this up. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of Elohim. Shalom, crushing the authorities that's associated, that's attached to chaos, crushing the teachings, the doctrines that's attached to Babylon. That is shalom. Keep that in mind, Mishpaka. Because those who can do that are called sons of Elohim. If you can't do that, you might just not, maybe you're just not a son. Maybe you're not capable of doing that. Because, man, listen, we've been talking about this come out of Babylon for a long time, but yeah, we realize that everybody can't do it. Everybody's not capable. But those who are able to do it, they will be called sons of Elohim. Y'all are sons of light if you can do this. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of the Shamaim. And again, I submit to y'all, Yahusha was talking, this is things they were going through. This is things they've been through before they got to this point. And Yahusha is encouraging them. And we know that these are things they're going to go through on a higher level the more that they follow Yahusha. So Yahusha's having it's like this council meeting with them. And he's saying, man, look, basically what he's saying is, blessed are y'all. The kingdom is, hey, listen, be encouraged. The kingdom is yours. The things that y'all are going through and that y'all are about to go through, y'all are going to be persecuted for righteousness' sake. Y'all are mourning because of this kingdom. These things that y'all been hungering and thirsting for righteousness, Yahuwah's been hearing y'all prayers. Blessed are y'all. The kingdom is here for y'all. The kingdom is y'all. Encouraging them. Verse 11. Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Now that's when he's kind of prophesying to them. Basically what he's saying without saying it is, man, these things are going to happen, y'all, but blessed are you. You'll be blessed. Verse 10 was probably what they already been going through. For mourning in the kingdom, for hunger and thirst for righteousness, for being poor in ruach, for being meek, etc., etc. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of the Shamayim. This is probably what they've been already going through, but then he goes into the future of what they're going to go through. Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in the Shamayim. Great is who reward?
Wait, hold on, let me unmute. Your reward.
Who reward?
Your reward.
And who is he talking to?
Talmudim, the disciples.
This is specifically to the disciples. Yahushua's like, man, listen, Yahuwah's going to reward you. This great is your reward in the Shamayim. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. He's not talking to the whole multitude, Mishpachah. He wasn't talking to everybody. This was a very specific discussion that he was having with these set apart people who had a huge work they were about to do. And listen, it's continuing. This is still talking to the disciples. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then food for nothing, but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Ab in the Shamayim. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to talk about that light real quick, because this is, so often is the Brit Hadashah painted as a picture that's against the Torah and the Tanakh. When he's talking about salt and light, y'all, all of that is Torah or Torah-based language. So salt is a preservative. Salt that's covenant language. You are the salt of the earth. That means, so he's talking to the Talmudim here. He is not talking to everybody. He's not talking to the entire world here. When he says you are the salt of the earth, this goes back to covenants. I won't go there because y'all can look it up. There's so many of them. David, covenant of salt. Phineas, covenant of salt. Pincus. Then you had the Levites. They had a covenant of salt. So when we're talking about being the salt of the earth, this isn't just like some Yahushua wasn't out here talking about some salt bay. You know what I'm saying? And what are you doing? This is real covenant language. He's telling these disciples that you are in covenant with Yahuwah. You are the salt. You are the ones that have the covenant. So this is why Paul in Romans, he'll say stuff like, to what advantage of there being Israel? Much in every way. For to them belong the teachings and the doctrines and the oracles, all these different things. This is Yahushua talking about Torah, y'all. The light of the world. Look at verse 14. You are the light. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me back up to 13 real quick. Now, I do think Yahushua, this was a warning too. Because he says, you are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? Y'all ever tried to re-season salt? Nah, ain't nobody trying to re-season no salt. Don't y'all be lying in the chat. No, you wouldn't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. You wasn't trying to re-season no salt. Then look what he say. It is then food or good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. This concept here, I thought about this. I was like, man, so you telling me that, man in the house, he's trying to season some salt. He got some salt. He's trying to season his food, and they don't season it. You telling me he go outside, throw the salt on the ground, and start stomping it out of anger? No, this was a warning. He's saying, look, if you cease to be the salt of the earth for Yahuwah, then the nations are going to come, and you're going to be trampled on by the nations. This is like a prelude to. You can go to Luke. I think it's like chapter 24. You don't have to go there. I'm just gonna kind of quote it. But he says that Jerusalem. No, all right, let's go there. Hold on. It's Luke 24. Is it 24? No, it ain't 24. Hold on. I'm gonna find it real quick. Nah, it's in Matthew. It's Matthew. I think it might be Matthew 24. Let's see here. Hey, this gonna happen. This gonna happen. You gonna do this. I don't know. Let me find this real quick. He said, "Oh, Luke 21:24. Hey, I got the 24 right. I was close. 21, Luke 21:24. So look at this. I'm gonna just read 24 because y'all are probably okay. Now I'm gonna read at 21. 21. I'm gonna read 21 through 24. Remember, we're talking about salt and being trampled on. Look what he says here. Then let those who are in Judea. Okay, so the then is referring to when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, right? This is the coming destruction of Jerusalem. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the midst of her depart, and let not those who are in the country enter into her. For these are the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe to those who are pregnant, and to those who are nursing babes in those days. For there will be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. Verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and be led away captive into all nations. In Jerusalem shall be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are complete, or the times of the nations are complete. So this goes back to salt being
Con.
trampled on. Nobody is like, man, listen, when you have salt and you see something, if your food come out not salty, you throw the salt out and you go on about your day. But he says, nah, they're going to trample upon your head because you've ceased to function. There was somebody in the tribe that got a word about functioning, but not abandoning your station. That's what this is saying. Like as a people, we don't have the option to be anything other than what we're called to be. You don't have that option because you are the salt of the earth. Salt don't have the option to say, man, you know what? I'm tired of being salty. How about it salty? I'm tired of being salty. I'm gonna be pepper now. You mess around and put some salt on your food thinking it's pepper. I don't want to be salt no more. I'm gonna be garlic. You'll wind up ruining the thing that you're trying to season.
Man.
So I say all that to say this, that you don't, when you read Matthew 1 through 12, I remember being in the church and I read this mug. I was like, yeah, I ain't about that life. And I left. This is, and I went into like agnostic and, flirting with atheism and all them different things, different religions. So I was like, yeah, no, blessed are the poor. I'm out. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't trying to do that. But when you look at 1 through 12, Yahushua is like, hey, you don't have no option other than to have dominion. You don't have no option other than to rule because you are the salt of the earth. There's no different paths that we can choose, y'all.
Man.
That's not what we are. You are salt. You're gonna be salty. You're gonna be the salt of the earth. If you're not, then you're gonna be trampled on. It's not if you not, then you can become pepper or garlic or you can become onion powder or oregano. I don't know, whatever you season your food
Man,
with.
that's real.
Now you remain salt and you just you under man's feet and you still salt. So, all right, I wanted to touch on that. And then the light. Because again, Yahushua is talking covenant here, y'all. He's talking Torah. Verse 14 of Matthew chapter 5. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand. Y'all, I think this lampstand is really referring to like the menorah. That's what I believe it's referring to. I know it's in Greek, and even when you trace it back to the Hebrew, I don't. It traces to something that's similar to menorah. I can't remember the exact thing it traced back to, but I believe he's talking about the menorah here, the menorah, and then he says, and it gives light to all who are in the house. So of course, when you think about a lamp, you think about okay, a lamp's go in the house. But if you ever been to Sukkot, if you ever Sukkoted with us, it get dark at night. We be out in the little country, and them little flashlights don't work. You gotta have like a powerful light if you're trying to get to the bathroom at night. But see, this lamp here, this light, it's supposed to light those who are in the house. Our whole function as a nation was supposed to be the light of the world in a sense. It's by the light that people are led to Yahuwah. So he's saying these things and he's not being poetic. Well, you can argue he's being maybe a little poetic, but the main thing is not, he's not making up these new rhymes and new lines. No, he's pulling all of this from the Torah so that we can remember who we are in the midst of the captivity.
Yeah.
I submit, y'all. Yeah, I'll just say this real quick. I think that Yahusha, in Yahuwah's perfect plan, waited until the time of the Roman captivity to come so that we could read it and relate. He could have came during the Persian captivity. He could have came during the Mede captivity, Babylonian captivity. He could have even came to the Greece captivity. But out of all the captivities, y'all know what nation, what captivity this nation is most like? Rome. So he's talking to these people in Rome who are following him, saying, hey, you salt and you light. Yeah, but kid, as I say, you gotta take a whole dropper. She been on me. But anyway, so my point is this though, that we are the light, and the menorah was set up to light not the entire earth, but those who were in the house. Like the menorah in the temple, it lit this place. Like, go back and see where the menorah was as far as when it comes to, like, was it in the outer courts, was it in the inner court, or was it in the Kodesh HaKodeshim? It was supposed to be a light for those who are in the house, not a light for everybody. It's those who want to join. It's through y'all. It's through y'all that people have to know Yahuwah. Verse 16, then I'm going to be done. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and then glorify you? Nah. They may see your good works and then give you a great paycheck? That they may see your good works and then glorify your Father in heaven. That's connected to being the light. That even goes back, both of these things really go back to the word shalom, because that shin can represent a menorah. But anyway, that'd be a whole nother thing. But I wanted to just highlight in verse 13 through 16 that Yahusha, he not out here just being poetic, man. He pointing people back to the Torah in their day so that we can understand it in our day.
Man, that's it. That's it. And then so keeping it going, verse 17. Do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. This is big, Mishpaka. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Okay? So this is Yahusha. He's saying that I didn't come to do away with the law. I didn't come to destroy the law. I came to fulfill it. Yahusha was so strong in his words that he said, do not even think that I came to do that. I'm not just telling you that I didn't come to do that, but I don't even want that to even cross your mind. But maybe not every, but about 99% of churches, their whole foundation of their doctrine is based off of saying the law has been destroyed by who? Yahushua himself. Because Yahushua, he did away with the law. He did away with Torah. Yahushua HaMashiach said first before he's about to, I submit he said this on purpose because he's about to say some things after this. You know, he about to say some things, and that's why he had to say this at first. And you know the things that he about to say are the same verses that people in other schools use to prove that the law is done away with. But Yahushua literally said as a disclaimer before he said those things, don't even think that. So I just want to say that up front before we get into these other things. Don't even think that I come to do away with the law, to destroy the Torah. Because shalom, you are destroying instructions. You are destroying a word, a teaching. But Yahushua is letting you know, don't think that I came to destroy Torah, though. No. What was true shalom? He was destroying the teachings, the doctrines that was associated with the other nations. That's what he was doing this whole chapter, y'all. When he was talking to his disciples, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are the meek." He's destroying these teachings, these doctrines that were associated with the other nations, because in reality, the Pharisees were not meek at all. They were very prideful, and they were, I submit, teaching, maybe not directly, but at least indirectly, that was a sign that they are blessed by Yahuwah. Being prideful, being very haughty, being very, look, I'm me, look at me, And when you read the volume of the book and the Brit Hadashah, the teachings of Yahusha, you can surmise this is how the Pharisees were. They were the opposite of meek. They were the opposite of poor in spirit. Oh no, they were. Oh yeah, I'm that dude. Look at me. They had all the money. They had the prestige. They had the status. They had the popularity. They had all that because they were in bed with Rome. We talked about that last time. I know it's been about a month, but since we got on this, but listen, just a quick recap, just a quick 20, 30-second recap. The Pharisees were in bed with Rome. They were sellouts, Mishpaka. That's why they had all the money, all the prestige. That's why they were flourishing, even in the midst of being under the captivity of Rome. There's some schools that I be looking at. I'm like, man, how y'all flourishing like this, teaching this type of stuff, and ain't nobody trying to blackball y'all? Ain't nobody saying that, How y'all flourishing like that? Unless y'all are in bed with them in some sort of way. Y'all got some sort of agreement going on with them. Because I'm like, y'all out here doing all that crazy stuff and flourishing. We say the smallest thing, they trying to cut us off. Man, it was one time I had, it was somebody in the comments said something, and they shut the whole video down. I'm like, man. But I be seeing other, situations that going in, saying the wildest stuff, and they flourishing. I don't know, it's just an observation. It's just an observation. But this is why you see, especially in the, churches, certain, people flourish to the highest degree. I mentioned one of the best examples is, man, what's his name? Who did I mention? That one dude, man. He's a known FBI informant, and he became a pastor, and they put him out on the news. He had his own show on MSNBC. I don't know if he still has it anymore. I think Trump might have booted him once he got in the office, but the whole time during Obama and Joe Biden, he had his own show on MSNBC.
Talking about the man who's like, oh yeah, and then I ducked out the way. You talking about him?
With the hair. Yeah.
Jesse Jackson.
Jesse Jackson is another one, though. I know he's old now. I don't know if he's still around, but I know he's the old elderly now. But Jesse Jackson is another one, though. There's a lot of information where with Jesse Jackson, it's some pretty credible sources that connect him to even MLK. Tipping off on MLK getting killed by the government. He was there. He was right there. And it was, but it's another dude. Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton, yeah. I was thinking he's a little more current, even though Al Sharpton pretty elderly now too. But he was in bed with the government, y'all. But he's Reverend Al Sharpton, a Reverend. And you're like, man, he does all the stuff for, he really yells out about black folks real loud. And he's real outspoken, but man, why is he flourishing so much? Well, he was a known FBI informant, career FBI informant. He specialized in selling people out his whole career until and then they basically around the time where they took out all of the leaders that we had, like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they were all systemically taken out by the government, either directly or indirectly. There were many others. There were several others. You know, you can go into the Black Panthers. You know, y'all go into history. A lot of y'all know about Fred Hampton and different things. They systematically, the government took out all the major leaders that were trying to, you know, do things to lead our people in this captivity. And then they raised up puppets in their place that were in bed with the government. That's who Jesse Jackson was. He was a puppet raised up to take the place of like your Martin Luther King, things like that. Jesse Jackson even ran for president. He even had a chance to.
Wild.
You know, he ain't win that. You know, that was like in the 80s he ran.
They ain't like him that much.
But they made him he was a senator. He was like a something senator. So he had some sort of high position. He was a congressman, something like that for his whole career. He had a very high position. I can't remember exactly what it was. And the same with Al Sharpton, similar, I should say. And there's several others. That was the reason why I'm bringing this up. I just want to paint. I want y'all to understand who the Pharisees were, Mitch Parker. Because we look at the Pharisees and we look at this as something far off, but no, this stuff goes on today. You know, those are our modern day Pharisees, people like that. The Pharisees were not just religious figures, they were political figures. They were like a political figure. That's how, like Al Sharpton, they call him Reverend Al Sharpton, even though he's primarily political. You see what I'm saying? That was the Pharisees, y'all. They were, you know, primarily religious, but they were political figures as well. Major sellouts, and that's why Yahusha came in and he was just like, he saw through everything. He like, nah, yeah, no. Listen, disciples, y'all are what's it. Y'all are the ones. They're not it. I know they say these things, but I'm going to teach you some things that are going to crush some of these doctrines they've been pushing. You know, like being prideful and being haughty means you're blessed. Yeah, listen, I thought that was true. I believe that, me personally, growing up in the church, I thought that, okay, if it's a big church, if the pastor is just flourishing, he has thousands of members in his church, that means they're blessed. Oh, the Most High must be there. They got thousands of members. You know, man, when I was young, listen, because that's all I knew. I thought that must be a sign they were really blessed. And these are doctrines and things that are associated, that are attached to Babylon, that are attached to the other nations. You don't see that in the scriptures. The disciples were a small number. You see what I'm saying? But they were powerful. And so, nevertheless, that's what it all boils down to. But I'll keep going. So, but keeping that in mind, just keeping going. It says, oh yeah, go ahead.
I just want to make one quick argument. That's dude. Okay, so I wasn't gonna say nothing, but I feel like I should. I feel like the Ruach lead me to. So I just want to talk about 17, verse 17, real quick, because this is an argument that, you know, most of us probably already know that the law is not destroyed or ended or anything like that. But I just want to show a real quick argument because I feel like we got somebody new listed there. So, all right. So this is what the church teaches. Do not think that I came to destroy the law of the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. They really, they make that word fulfill synonymous with to bring to an end. Okay. Now, if we look at that Greek word for the word fulfill, and I'm not gonna go to a whole bunch of scriptures, y'all. I just want to show y'all that.
Yo, yeah, bring that out, yeah.
This word is plerou. I know it's Greek, y'all. I'm like, well, plerou, that don't sound, yeah. Our mouth don't even really pronounce Greek well. It's weird.
For real.
But plerou. All right. So this word plerou, if you look at this, let's pretend that the church is correct and it means to bring to an end. What I want y'all to do, just some homework. Go through and look at where this word is used, and then replace that word with to bring to an end. Because really what this word means, I'm going to tell you in a minute. I'm going to just quote a few scriptures real quick. So let's look, if we were to take that same concept, the same Greek word, and let's look at something like John 15:11, right? It says, these things have I spoken unto you that my joy might remain in you. It's Yahusha speaking to his disciples again. So these things I have spoken unto you that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be pleru. So if that word pleru, if we say this means that Yahusha came to cut away the law, to bring it to an end, because I've heard people say, well, that means he completed it and it's done. That means that Yahusha in John 15:11, what he's saying is, I said these things to you that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be brought to an end. So Yahusha want people out here depressed. It ain't Yahusha to do that. Jesus want people out here depressed. So we take that word and we replace it. That's John 15:11. Y'all can write it down. I'm gonna do just two more real quick. If we look at let's do Acts let's do Acts 5:28. Let's see yeah, Acts 5:28. This is the same word, pleru, right? Saying, so this, I'm just going to read it. You have to go through and get the context. Saying, did not we strictly command you that you should not teach in this name? This is the Pharisees talking to the disciples, and they've been teaching in the name of Yahushua, and they mad about it. This is go back to what I was just saying. Saying, did we not straightly command you that you should not teach in that name? And behold, you have pleru Jerusalem with your doctrine and intend to bring this man's blood upon us. They're like, yeah, I know we killed him, but you try to blame us for it. Like, yeah, you did it. You did it though. So again, if that word pleru means to bring to an end or to fulfill in order to remove, then what they're saying is by teaching in his name, you have brought Jerusalem to an end. No, this word pleru, it means to fill up. So it's not saying, Yahushua is not saying in Matthew 5:17 that he is not destroying. He did not come to destroy, but to bring to an end. He's saying, I didn't come to destroy, but I came to fulfill. I came to fill up something. Think about like your gas tank. If you are in Texas, you need to pleru your gas tank tonight. You know what I'm saying? You need to pleru.
Everybody ready for that ice storm, man.
Y'all know we can't drive in the ice. I don't know why we cannot drive in the ice. We are in the South. We don't drive in no ice because, man, look, we don't change our speed in the ice. Go pleru your gas tank. Don't be trying to go get gas after the snow comes, okay? Pleru means to fill up. So what Yahushua is saying is everything that I came to complete, that is what I filled up. Just adding that in there. One, if you already know it, then praise Yahushua, you can add it to your arsenal. But to the ear that had never heard that before, your homework, if you want to know the truth, go and look at this word, see where it's used, and then replace it with the doctrine that was taught. Then you're going to find that you have a responsibility to Yahuwah still. But I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to go too deep into that.
Yeah, no, that's through. So, keeping that in mind. So, going back to the MATITYAHU 5:17, he said, "Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill it." So, that's to like Bakir Sargon brought out clearly, pleru to feel it, to complete, like to. He came to feel, to, it's like almost to bring it to the full, to bring it to completion.
God.
So it's important to understand that because, I just heard people talk around that, but it's very clear. And Yahushua made it even clearer after this. So there's no speaking around this because he said right here in verse 18, "Assuredly I say to you, till the Shamaim and the Arets pass away, until the Shamaim and the Arets pass away, one jot or one tittle will by no means pass from the Torah until all is fulfilled." Does that play rules as well?
No, that's an associated word though.
Okay.
Yeah, that word is
let's see. To all be fulfilled. This is Greek. Ginomami.
Geonablu Gabi.
That
Genobly.
Genoma. Let's see. There is a equivalent in the Hebrew. Maybe, let's see. Okay.
Man, look at that. Oh wow.
This is a very common word. Okay.
Yeah, I bet that might be the equivalent might be like hayah, to become possibly. I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, maybe how y'all. That's why I was in so many scriptures. We ain't gonna get into too much into that right now, but uh, yeah, Torah. Until all is that's how young, then that would be until all has like came to pass or became. So it all will still be the same thing.
Mhm.
But for surely I say to you, till the Shamaim and the Reds pass away, one jot or one tittle will by no means pass from the Torah till all is fulfilled. So that's very clear, though, is that Yahusha did not come to do away with the law. So if anybody says to you that, hey, JC, he said the law is done away with it, so we don't got to keep the law anymore. You can be like, no, that don't make sense, because he was real clear. He even said, don't even think that, even let that cross your mind. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the scriptures instead of, what you're saying. I'm going to go with the scriptures on that one. Yahusha was very clear that he did not come to do away with that. Don't even think that. I'll submit again, the reason why he was saying that right now is because he was coming against the Pharisees when he was talking to the disciples with what they call the beatitudes. But he wanted to clarify and let them know, hey, but don't think I'm coming against the Torah, though. No, I ain't coming against that. Don't think that. This is it's different. No, I'm coming against the order in this day that's against Torah, that's against Yahuwah. I'm coming against like the Pharisaic things that they're doing that's not through. It's true. I hope that made sense. Hallelujah.
Yeah, so there's another way to do it where you can go like through these different websites and you can kind of trace it back to the Septuagint. Septuagint's the Greek version of the Old Testament. So you can find what Greek word was used in the New Testament. How they aligned it in the Septuagint or the Greek version of their Old Testament, and then you find the Hebrew. But the word there, it means becoming. That's the word hayah.
Praise Yahuwah. So keeping that in mind, Yahusha did not come to do away with the law. When you read this chapter, he's doing away with the teachings and doctrines that's associated with chaos, with the nations. He is causing shalom. So verse 19, then he keeps going. Whoever therefore breaks one of the least of these commandments, even deeper, and it was clear. Whoever therefore breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of the Shamaim. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of the Shamaim. I submit even right here, he's telling the disciples, make sure y'all teaching Torah. Make sure y'all teaching the commandments. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of the Shamaim. Now listen, y'all. You can't make this up. You can't make this up. That drives home my point that Yahusha was speaking in direct opposition to the way the Pharisees were moving. The Beatitudes was a direct contrast to the way the Pharisees moved. The disciples moved differently than the Pharisees. Yahusha was speaking on how the order of Yahuwah is going to move versus the order of the Pharisees, which is attached to what? Rome. It's attached to chaos. Yahusha is going to cause shalom. Yahusha say, I'm going to cause shalom. That's why he said, blessed are the shalom makers. Because listen, Yahusha like, I'm going to crush the teachings that are associated with the teachings. I'm going to crush the authorities, the lamed that's attached to the nations, that's attached to Rome. I know the Pharisees. Y'all don't know this. Yahusha's probably look at the disciples. I know y'all don't know this. But the Pharisees are attached to Rome. They're attached, their security to chaos. Their security is in chaos. That's the Ua Mim. Their security is in Rome being in this place. I'm gonna destroy their teachings, their doctrines, and their authority. That's shalom, Mishpaka. Blessed are the shalom makers. Blessed are the peacemakers. Why? For theirs is, let's bring it back up. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of Elohim. We know that Yahusha was a son of light. It's like he was the firstborn. We know he was way more than that, but he was also that. You know what I'm saying? All right. So then at the end, now he tells the disciples, unless your righteousness, this is what drives the point home. He tells them, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom. He letting you know, man, look, the Pharisees they not going to the kingdom. No, you got to be meek. You got to be, broken in the spirit. You got to be, these are the people who are going to the kingdom. So unless your righteousness exceeds how they moving, you're not going to make it. He was speaking, the whole thing was in direct opposition to what the order was during that day, which was the Pharisaic order that was in charge. All right, let's keep going. Oh, did you have anything on that?
He said by no means. It's impossible. Yeah, no, you're not going.
Man.
The answer is no. That's such an absolute phrase. I don't know. I guess I never noticed that before. By zero means, probability is zero. So that's pretty wild.
That's the wild, man.
I'm just enjoying the ride, man. This dude.
Nah, that's the wild, man. So okay, verse 21. Now remember, I just gotta drive this home. It's important. He's going into this right after he said, "Don't think that I've done away with the law." Okay. He said, "Don't think that I'm done away with the law. I didn't. Don't even think it. Not one jot or tittle until all the law is filled." And then he goes and he says these things that sound like he's changing stuff in the law. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder. That's Torah, right? You shall not murder. And whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment. But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whoever says to his brother, Rakah, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever says, you fool, shall be in danger of Sheol fire. He said, you have heard that it was said to those of old. Now, this ain't about what was written. This is about things that was said. This is about a word of teaching. You shall not murder. But that's Torah. That's a part of the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. And whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment. But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. Y'all, that's Torah too. He's not teaching nothing different. That's Torah too. But you gotta love your brother. You treat that's what Devarim chapter 6. Love your neighbor as yourself. Vayikra chapter 19, I believe, is love your neighbor. But he is speaking in direct opposition to the Pharisaic order because the Pharisees hated their own people. They were plundering. They were taking advantage of. They hated their people. They didn't have a love for their people. Yahusha is directly, indirectly speaking against them, y'all. But he's still talking to the Pharisees. But I submit what he had to do to get the Pharisees right, to get the Pharisees ready to move in this ministry that Yahusha has established them to move in, is he had to kill and destroy the doctrines and the teachings that were associated with the Pharisees, that was the chaos for them. Because they thought the Pharisees, were servants of Yahuwah. Yahusha's kind of showing them, no. And these are some things that they were teaching that y'all were following that, is not true. It's not through. So Yahusha is getting them cleansed of certain things so they can be really ready. Because they're hard. They had all the things, everything right. It was just some slight things, some things they were being misinformed in because of they thought the Pharisees were serving Yahuwah, that Yahusha is getting up out of them. Yeah, I know you heard it was said this, y'all. But listen, if you hate your brother, I submit if you hate your brother without a cause, you should be in danger of hellfire. Why is he saying that, y'all? Because that was the Pharisees. They hated their people. Extremely judgmental. They went hard against their own brothers and sisters based on all kind of reasons that were not justifiable. This is why he's bringing this stuff up to them. He's not talking to the multitudes. All right, verse 23. Let's look at this. Yahusha's making clear to them, listen, I'm not going against Torah. This ain't going against Torah. This is going against these people. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go your way. First be reconciled to your brother and then come and offer your gift. These are very, very through principles. You can implement this even because one way of offering up a sacrifice is worship, praise. If you have an art with your brother, before you go and be, on Shabbat praising and worshiping and crying before the Most High, hold on. Get all that stuff ironed out first. Then go before the Most High and give an offering. So make sure so that it'll be received, and make sure you do. Verse 25, agree with your adversary quickly while you are on the way with him, lest your adversary deliver you to the judge hand you over to the officer, and you be thrown into prison. Assuredly, I say to you, you will by no means get out of there till you have paid the last penny. Verse 27, you have heard that it was said to those of old. Notice he's saying you have heard that it was said. This ain't about what was written. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. Now, I know that that's Torah, but I submit Yahusha is talking deeper. He's talking about what is being said more than what's written in Torah as far as traditionally. Because then Yahusha saying, he said, but I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Now I know it's easy to read this and be like, see, he's changing the Torah. Because the Torah says you shall not commit adultery, but Yahusha said, no. Even if you look at a woman, you already committed adultery. No, listen, he is teaching Torah, Mishpachah. It's called thou shalt not covet. He is speaking directly against the Pharisees. I submit the Pharisees would be all super big about not committing adultery, but then they'd be looking at people's wives They'll be coveting their neighbors' wives. They're looking at married women, lusting after them, coveting their brother and sisters' women. Yahusha saying, man, that's the same thing, basically. That's why that's in Torah too. What Yahusha is, he's speaking against the Pharisees. The Pharisees are real strong on some Torah precepts while they're breaking others. This is what Yahusha is trying to teach. Okay, yeah, it was said to do this, but if you're doing that, you still wilding out. It's just as bad. You say thou shalt not kill, but if you over here, you hating your own people. You already killed your heart, you already committed murder. You saying thou shalt not commit adultery, but you over here coveting your neighbor's women all the time to the point you done took a couple of people's women. You done committed adultery. It's just in your inwardly. Yahusha dealing with the heart. So committing adultery is a physical act. Coveting your neighbor's wife, that's an inward act. That's a heart issue. That's something that nobody might never know if you don't say nothing. Those are the type of things that only Yahuwah might see, that everybody else don't see. See, the Pharisees was through at doing the things that everybody sees very well.
Outward things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were through with that. But the hard things, oh man, they wasn't moving in that at all. And Yahuwah see that real clear. And so Yahusha's talking to the disciples because Yahusha's seen their hearts too. And Yahusha's like, listen, y'all the ones. I know y'all don't listen. I know y'all think they the ones. They not. Y'all the ones. Y'all are pure in Ruach. Y'all are humble. Y'all been mourning for the kingdom. Y'all been hungry and thirsting for righteousness. They not moving in that. Y'all, the kingdom is coming to y'all. Be encouraged. Y'all been getting persecuted and all this and talk bad upon for trying to serve me, for trying to do right. Blessed are y'all. Let's look at this real quick. Exodus, Shemot chapter 20. This is the 10 Commandments. Let's see. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Here it goes. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife.
There you go.
How do you know if somebody is coveting their neighbor's wife? You don't know. That's a hard thing. It would have to take the dude, unless he says something outwardly, you would never know. A lot of these commandments deal with your inward parts, your heart, your intentions of your heart, Mishpaka. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is your neighbor's. And biblically, the female servant can also be a wife a lot of times too. That can be a handmaiden too, if you look at it Hebraically. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that. That's what Yahusha is talking about. See, the Pharisees were doing that, but they might not have been committing physical adultery, even though they were doing that too. Just not in the open. That's the understanding of Matthew 5:27. You have heard it, that it was said of those of old, you shall not commit adultery, but I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. This is talking about somebody's wife, Mishpachim. We know that for sure this is talking about somebody's wife, because biblically you cannot commit adultery with a woman that is not married. Biblically speaking, adultery does not involve a woman that is unmarried. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Adultery can only be committed against a married woman. When Yahusha is saying these things, he's talking to the disciples of people who know Torah. I know we throw adultery around like it, just real willy-nilly. And, it's like adultery is whenever somebody married lays with somebody else other than their wife. That's not, it's script. I'm just talking technically. According to the scriptures, that's not 100%. Adultery 100% is when a man that's married lays with a married woman. A woman that's married to someone else. Or when a man that's unmarried lays with a woman that's married to someone else. It's really about the woman being married what gives it, makes it become adultery. It's important to make that distinction because according to in the scriptures, Mishpaka, adultery is the death penalty every time. Adultery is the death penalty. Adultery is committed when the woman is married. It is a capital punishment in Yasharal. You can never commit adultery. The man and the woman were to be put to death whenever that happens, according to Torah. If a man lays with an unmarried woman, it's not always the death penalty. That's why I'm saying it's a very important distinction made there. If a man lays with an unmarried woman, even if they're not married, there's different things based on the circumstances. There's certain instances where Yahuwah says the man has to marry her then if he does that. There's other circumstances where, unless the father says no, then if the father says no, then there's some other things he would have to pay this money. It's not the death penalty though. So in Yahuwah's eyes, there's a big difference between harlotry and adultery. Sometimes harlotry is the death penalty, especially if the female's involved. But it's not all the time. But adultery, 100% of the time, if somebody commits adultery, according to Torah, it's the death penalty. All right. So with all that being said, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because knowing that, then when you read this, Yahusha is talking about a married woman. But I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Now when you read this, Yahusha is talking about whoever looks at a married woman. Which was the issue of the Pharisees, y'all. Because they were coveting their neighbor's wives. That was the issue. Be careful. If you somebody who got wandering eyes, be careful. Because what if your wandering eyes is looking at someone who's married and you ain't realize it? You think the Most High gonna make? Oh well, he didn't know. When Pharaoh took Sarah and didn't know, the Most High judged Pharaoh and his whole family. Anyway, and Pharaoh tried to explain himself. Man, Most High, I didn't know about it. No, they didn't tell me. And the Most High was like, okay, that's all right. Well, I'm paraphrasing. He covered him on it. Okay, but that still didn't stop all them judgments from happening. Is what I'm saying. And Pharaoh knew he had to hurry up and relent and get and let her go. He knew that. I'm trying to make sure I have it right. It's either when Pharaoh took Sarai or Abimelech took. It was one of the two when that happened, because it happened twice. Pharaoh took Sarai, And then I believe it was
Yeah,
Ribka. I believe
Rivka. Nah, you
Abimelech
on
took
it. That was
Ribka.
the one you referring to is this Bereshit chapter 12.
Mm.
So yeah, Pharaoh took Sarah, and Yahuwah plagued Pharaoh in his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abraham, and
Man,
Ishak.
that's it.
And you know what he had to do? He had to go repent. It's crazy. Like Pharaoh
Man.
had to repent and bring gifts to
Man.
Abraham. So nah, adultery, that's a big deal, man. That's a huge deal. I'm glad that you called that out because I think a lot of times we read this and it can be kind of seemingly innocent, and I do think sometimes it's just ignorance. But it's important to know the difference between these two when you talk about harlotry, fornication, or adultery. Because if you don't, you won't fully understand things like the Book of Hosea. The Book of Hosea is about an adulterous wife. It paints a relationship in our position with Yahuwah, because adultery puts you in a certain place with Yahuwah that harlotry might not. Now, what I'm not saying is one's better than the other. So, hey, I ain't gonna be an adulterer. Bakir Sargon said I need to be a harlot. No, listen, you in a bad boat either way. You in a bad shape either way.
Either
Like
way.
it puts you in a different position. So, nah, man, put the seatbelt back on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, let's ride.
God, man, that's real. So yeah, that stuff is real. So now verse 29 says, if your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you. For it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into Sheol. Now listen, I'm gonna read this again. We got to understand the teachers of Yahushua. Y'all are huge. If your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you. For it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into Sheol. Y'all remember, Yahushua speaking against the Pharisaic order. The eye represents the leadership, Mishpach, the eyes. Represents the leadership, Mishpach. Yeah. Khan. That represents the leadership, those who has the insight and oversight over the rest of the what? Body. Yeah. Yahushua is talking about the leaders. He says, if your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out, cast it from you. For it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into Sheol. If the leadership is moving wicked and they're causing the whole body to sin, it's better for them to be removed, y'all, than for the whole body to be cast into Sheol. All throughout Israel's history, you had this leader that was raised up that was serving Yahuwah. They caused what? The whole nation to not serve the Most High. And so also Yahushua is talking directly surrounding the Pharisaic order that the leaders are wicked, that the leaders are corrupt. And he's letting them know, man, it's better for them to walk around with one eye, than for the whole body to go to Sheol. But you know how it goes. You got to look at man. That's going, man. What are we going to do with, what do? Listen, it's better to be not complete as far as a body than to be complete, but the whole body go to Sheol, because that one part is causing everybody, is wicked. Then he keeps going. He says, and if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you. For it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into Sheol. I'm telling you, this is talking about the members of the assembly, the members of the order. Oh, my bad. Hold on, let me. Y'all got to read this with me. Hold on. So I don't know if I saw verse 29, but I'll read it again. If your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you, for it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast in the Sheol. So that's what I was talking about earlier. Then it goes into verse 30, and if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Listen, your right hand, he's talking about people. He's talking about people, y'all.
We about to go there.
The right hand would be like, one of the heads in the assembly. One of the main, the eyes would be the head leadership, the top leadership. The hands would probably be, right there, maybe like a second level leadership. But they're the main parts of the body. You know what I'm saying? He's talking about like the main parts of the body, the most productive parts of the body. You see what I'm saying? He's like, man, even if you're most productive, if it's causing you to sin, cut it off. Cast them out. Cast it from you. For it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for the whole body to be cast into Sheol. So, in other words, again, this is going directly against the Pharisaic or teachings. In other words, it ain't about gaining a lot of members. The church that has 4,000 members and a mega church in the big stadium, that don't mean that they blessed. Everybody's in there. Everybody's in iniquity. Everybody's in sin. I used to, I went to a couple of mega churches when I was growing up. I was young before the truth. I was in the church trying to serve the Most High. My parents wasn't into church like that, so I was trying to figure it out on my own. And I thought, again, I told you, I thought the big churches, that must mean that the Most High must really be there because they blessed. Man, look at, they got everything. They huge. I even went to Lakewood when I was in Houston for a while. I was going to Lakewood. I would go to Lakewood every time I had the chance. So I wasn't going like every week, but anytime I had the chance to, it was on the other side of town from where I lived, but I would go. Joe Osteen, when I was in Austin, I was in a mega church out here. I went to a mega church for like 6 years. And everybody in there was in all kind of iniquity. Everybody. For real. I was, back then in my 20s, just trying to serve the Most High, man, be in the club, and then be in church the next day. And wake up and go to church. Oh, it's all through. It's grace, Most High know my heart. You know what I'm saying? That was what they was teaching. Oh, man. I didn't even know I was getting that from what they was teaching. But what happens is subconsciously you start taking on the stuff they be teaching. I was in this, they had like a class for those who were dealing with addiction, those who were dealing with, smoking and stuff like that. Man, there was so many people up in there. Everybody in there and all kind of bondage, iniquities in that church, y'all. People in there on all hard drugs. I mean, with nobody getting delivered. It's not about gaining the most members. Not in Yahuwah's order. It never was like that. As a matter of fact, Yahushua was teaching the opposite. Hey, man, listen, if one of your members is causing you to sin, listen, it's better for him to be cast away than for him to remain in the body and the whole body be cast away. That's what this is talking about. This is Yahushua teaching the disciples. All right, I'm gonna prove it. I'm gonna prove it because I feel like some of y'all like I don't know, but it's all right. Here go another proof text. Let's go to Let's go to, let's see. Let me find this verse real quick. It's in the Corinthians. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 12. All right, look at this now. I'm going to give y'all another witness just to drive the point home. We might as well. For as the body is one and has many what? Members. Who do y'all think the members represent here? Who do the members represent in this chapter, in this verse? The people, right? Right? Yeah. For as the body is one and has many members, but all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Hamashiach. For by one Ruach we're all immersed into one body. Whether Yahudim or Greeks, whether slaves or free, and have all been made to drink into one Ruach. For in fact, the body is not one member, but many.
Come on.
If the foot, I mean, come on, you know what I'm saying? You can't. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? Now listen. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, see, the hands are the leadership. They're like the more higher level aspects of the body. I submit that's what he was being specific. That's why he said the foot. If the foot should say, well, I'm not the hand. It's about other members will be higher level. Look what it says in verse 16. If the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, remember the eyes are the head of the leaders. I'm not of the body. Is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would be the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where would be the smelling? But now Elohim has set the members, each one of them in the body, just as he pleased. And if they were all one member, where would the body be? But now indeed there are many members, yet one body. And the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you. See, the leadership needs everybody.
Facts.
Nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. No, much rather, those members of the body which seem to be weaker are necessary. Y'all see what this is saying? Those who are not the leadership, they are still necessary. Everybody has a function in the body. And those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, on these bestow greater honor, and our unpresentable parts have greater modesty. But our presentable parts have no need. But Elohim composed the body, having given greater honor to that part which lacks it, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care for one another. And if one member suffers, all the members suffer with it. Or if one member is honored, all the members rejoice with it. That's why if you have one member that's in iniquity, that's in sin, it will cause the whole body to sin. It's better for that one member to be cast out than for the whole body to go in the Sheol. Verse 27, now you are the body of Hamashiach, and members individually. Members individually. And members individually. And Elohim has appointed these in the assembly. First apostles, second prophets, third teachers. After that, miracles, then gifts of healings, helps, administrations, varieties of tongues. Are all apostles, all prophets, are all teachers, are all workers of miracles? Do all have gifts of healings? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? But earnestly desire the best gifts, and yet I'll show you a more excellent way. Okay, now keeping that in mind, now let's go back. We're going to read that again. And I think that'll really drive it home a little clearer. All right. Verse 29, if your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you. Now you see what that right eye represents? That's a person. For it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into Sheol. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you. For it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into Sheol. Hallelujah.
In that same book of Corinthians, in chapter 5, that's the text. That's what he's like. He writes chapter 12, but I submit that's based on chapter 5 because if you look at chapter 5, it's about a man who's laying with his mother, his father's wife.
Oh, snap.
And let me show you what happened to him. Yeah, I guess we should look at it. I mean, we here now. We only got to go 7 chapters back. You go down to verse 10 of First Corinthians 5. Look at what he say. Yet I certainly okay, let me write verse 9. He says, I wrote to you in my epistle not to keep company with sexual immoral people. Yet I certainly did not mean the sexual immoral people of this world, or with the covetous, or extortioners, or idolaters, since then you would need to go out of this world, out of the world. But now I have written to you not to keep company with anyone named a brother who is sexually immoral or covetous or an idolater or a reviler or a drunkard or an extortioner. Don't even, not even to eat with such a person. So this is
Mm.
making sense now because he's saying like, hey, you got people in the world, they wicked. I ain't telling you not to keep company with them because in order to do that, we'd have to leave this world. They're members of another body. The people of this world are members of a different body. But now he turns and he looks at the body that is the assembly. Hey, look, but if they call themselves brother, that's saying if they saying they of your body, nah, these are the ones you have to cut off. This backs up what Yahushua was saying. Verse 12. For what have I to do with judging those also who are outside? What have I to do with judging those who are not of the body? Do you not
Man.
judge those who are inside, who are a part of the body?
Man.
But those who are outside are Lua judges. Therefore, because of all this, put away from yourselves the evil person. This is
Man.
what I was talking about, man. This is
Man.
the putting away of the evil person. But see, this is what the Pharisees would do. The Pharisees were great at judging other people's bodies. They were fantastic. They were judges, American Idol, The Voice. They like, oh, they were perfect at judging what everybody else had going on. But they didn't
Man.
look at their own body. They would not judge themselves. They would say, hey, you got a plank in your eye. Or no, you got some sand in your eye. I see, yo, that's something you got an issue with. The way that you did that. I know you did that whole lesson, but you wrote there and spelt it wrong. Great at that. But within themselves, they are not able to see themselves, even though they got a whole log in their eye. So this is just going back to what you were saying, man. Like it's about judging those who are inside the body. And man, I'm gonna have to go back and look at that First Corinthians 12 though, because there's some
Man.
things that was
It's a
in
whole
there
lot
as
in
far
there.
as the hand, the eyes, the foot,
Yeah.
the ear. I think this is what happens within Israel. This is why Yashrael has just not come together as a body. I'm actually, I think Yahuwah going to elect certain people. I say it that way because in Yashrael, one thing that we've learned to hate is order. But you cannot have a body without order. But you know what? It's weird though. It's not even that we just hate order. We just hate having order amongst ourselves. Like we don't have no
Yeah.
problem going to the job, clocking in. Supervisor say, "Hey, I need you to take a short lunch." You say, "I got you, yes sir." How long you need me to take? But when if one of the leadership say, "Hey, look, man, I need you to do this action," I don't need you to take a short lunch. No, bro. I just need you to bring your food because we might change up how we. Oh, you gonna have? I bring my own food. You know what I'm saying? Now we upset. So it's not that we hate order. We just hate order within our own body. Um, Even within marriage, you see the same thing. You'll submit to your boss on the job, and then if your husband asks you to do something, it's an issue now. So we got to
Man.
really look at that because it's not that we hate order. It's just that we hate order within our body. But I said all of that to say this: that one thing that stuck out to me when you read First Corinthians 12 was how it's the ear said it wanted to be the eye. The ear is for hearing. So there are people who will hear from Yahuwah. I mean, like really hear from Yahuwah. But then the challenge comes because now they want to be the one who directs the body. That's what the eye. You talked about how the eye is like the main leadership, the head leadership, because they see the direction that they are to go. You got to be careful with that, man. Like if you hear, that doesn't mean you're supposed to direct the body. Just because you can hear doesn't mean that you are now the eyes. Or if you're the foot, that don't mean like you're not important, man. I'm looking at 1 Corinthians 12 a whole nother way. I'm gonna go back and study that because that was major. Just the relationship within the body, and we gotta figure this stuff out, y'all.
Man, that's real. That's deep. That's deep. And so, yeah, keeping that going, man. Verse 31. Furthermore, it has been said, whoever divorces his wife, this is a big one, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that whoever divorces his wife for any reason except sexual immorality causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a woman who is divorced commits adultery. All right, so this is a big one. Whoever marries a woman who is divorced commits adultery. Listen, this is a huge one. Now, because this verse, when Yahushua was teaching this, this caused a lot of churches to develop this doctrine that if you marry a woman who's been divorced before, that means you committed adultery because you married a woman she's divorced before. Oh man, listen, that is not what this is saying. Okay. All right. Yahushua HaMashiach was not teaching against Torah. In the Torah, there's nothing against, as long as a woman's fully divorced, there's nothing against marrying her. Matter of fact, there's some instances where we saw that happen. We saw that happen with King Dawid. We saw that happen with a couple of other instances as well. Even the story of, I guess you can say that's an exception because the husband died. You can probably maybe say that. But actually with King David, he took Michal and he didn't die. The person she was married to. So there's some things you can look at. But my point is, there's nothing in the Torah that says this, that says that if you marry a woman that is divorced, that means you committed adultery. That actually goes against, this is how, I'm trying to explain this because this is how you can really start to properly divide the scriptures, properly read like the Brit Hadashah, read the teachers of Yahushua and decipher what he's really saying. The Torah definition of adultery is when a man lays with a woman who is married to someone else, a married woman. If a woman is divorced, she's not married no more. There's nothing in Torah that said that goes against the Torah definition of adultery to say that that's adultery if someone lays with her. You see what I'm saying? Because adultery is death penalty now. In the kingdom of Yasharal, adultery is death penalty. So that's saying, okay, this woman, she was divorced. Her husband divorced her. They're not married no more. So, this man wants to come and cover her and marry her. Oh, man. Oh, hold on. But she's been married before. Oh, dead. That is not what this is saying. That's not what this is saying. So you got to look. So that's English. We're not going to go too deep into what this is saying behind. But if you look it up yourself, in the Greek, there's a different word for being put away and being divorced. So being put away is basically you're not divorced, you're just separated. So Babylon has that. People may be married and then they separate, but never finalize their divorce. That's what being put away is. And so in the scriptures, there's a Greek word for being put away, and there's a separate Greek word for being actually divorced. What this, if you look at it, this is using the Greek for being put away. Okay, as far as when it says whoever marries a woman who is divorced commits adultery, that's not what it's saying. What this is really saying is whoever marries a woman who is put away,
right,
commits adultery.
She's still another man.
Why? Because she is still married, Miss Parker.
So can I say something on that real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's in Deuteronomy chapter 24. That's where you see this law developing. You're right. It happened with Michal, and it even happened with Gomer. Let me show you the Deuteronomy 24 real quick. I'll just read it because this is Torah, y'all. Yahushua's not teaching against Torah here. So look at this. Verse 1, when a man takes a wife and marries her, and it happens that she finds no favor in his eyes because he has found some uncleanness in her, and writes her a certificate of divorce. Step 1, he writes her the certificate of divorce. Step 2, puts it in her hand. Step 3, sends her out of his house. Pause. So this is what happens. In our culture today, we be like, you know what? I'm mad at you. I'm mad at you too. You know what? We live in separate. That is not divorce. That is being put away. You see David do that with his wives that his son laid.
Yeah, concubines. Yeah,
concubines. He puts them away and he doesn't go back into them. That's what it looks like to be put away. But he also provided for them the rest of their days. So it being put away that's what it looks like to be put away. And you'll see some other things, but let me keep reading. So a divorced woman has all these things done. There's this certificate of divorce. They done signed this stuff. She's been given it, and then she's out of his house. Verse 2, when she has departed from his house, like what it says, and goes and becomes another man's wife. Now, why would it say that if it was a sin to do that?
There you go.
Why would it say, oh, she got remarried, and then I killed their whole family? Ain't that what it say next? No. Then it goes into this exception rule. Verse 3, if the latter husband, the one who she remarried to, detests her and writes her a certificate of divorce, puts it in her hand, step 2, step 3, and sends her out of his house, or if the latter husband dies who took her as his wife, then her former husband who divorced her must not take her back to be his wife. So then there's this rule where, okay, you done divorce this woman, fully divorced her, not put her away, but divorced her. She got remarried. If her husband dies or if that husband divorced her, you can't get back together. I had this happen in my bloodline. I done seen this in my family. That mug be a mess, boy. Let me tell you, that thing be wild. So just to go back to what Mushal was saying, man, it's different when you're putting somebody away versus when you're divorcing them. I was gonna say one more thing on that. Let me go back. It was man, I can't remember what you just said. That's okay. Yeah, I'll jump back in. I can't remember what it was. If it come back to me, I'll come back.
Was it surrounding no Greek words or no? Rule or anything like that?
Nah, it's okay. I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was the Greek words. That's just a major call out.
I'll praise to the side, but yeah, like man, that's right on it. So, so you got a polio shout, and it's interesting. So let's go to the King James because it looks like King James actually says "put away," which is a little more, it's a little bit better of a. Let me see how they word it here in the King James. It has been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. So the King James actually has a lot better way that they worded it, a lot closer to what's really being said. Whoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. So basically, what this is saying is, if you separate from your wife, divorce her if you're not going to want to be with her no more. Because the Pharisees, they were really, this was almost a form of just really, really doing women wrong. They'll marry a woman and they'll put her away, but never finalize the divorce, and then they'll just go and get with somebody else. But what happens is that she left high and she left out to dry, and it messes her up because then nobody can remarry, and somebody will try to. Maybe somebody comes along wants to get with her. They'll go ahead. Well, they they ain't together, but they technically still in covenant, and so that's adultery. You see what I'm saying? But the man has a play in that because he put her away, never divorced her. That's why Yahushua's like, man, listen. It's been said, whoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a right of divorcement. I say unto you, that whosoever shall put away his wife, save it for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her, that is divorce, committeth adultery. And that they still has that as divorce, but again, that's really whoever shall marry her that was been put away. You see what I'm saying? So that's just, driving that home.
I remember what I was going to say.
A little bit more. Go ahead.
So, and it does say it in the scripture version. It used the term "put away" because the scripture version tried to be like more like culturally accurate, those kind of things. But there's a principle in the Torah. I think it's in Exodus, man. I was trying to find it real quick. I remember what I was going to say now because Yahuwah actually put something in place for this. I'm gonna describe it. I don't know exactly where it is. I'm pretty sure it's in Exodus, but it says, "Hey, if you take a female woman, you take a servant, right? You're gonna marry her. If you decide not to marry her, you can give her to your son, but then if you decide not to do that, then you must let her go out of your house for nothing. You cannot hold on to her." That's the concept that was talking about, because this is how, y'all know how we could be, man. I mean, think about it. We do it with stuff, right? Let's say, let's say you go buy something, right? And then you got somebody who want it, but then you really don't like the person. You might not ever, never, ever use that thing you bought, but you sure ain't gonna give it to them. Man. Y'all know how petty we can be. So that's kind of how Yahuwah put this in place as a protection for women. Because if you take her and you say, "Hey, I'm betrothed to her, I'm going to marry her," and then you don't find no pleasure with her, you can't just put her aside and say, "Hey, well, your life ends now." Now Yahuwah like, "Nah, if you're not gonna marry her, okay." And then this is what they would do. They'd be like, "Oh no, I'm not gonna marry her, but I've got her so I can give her to my son." This is kind of what Judah did, y'all. Y'all remember Judah and Tamar? Tamar was stuck, boy. She couldn't do nothing because Judah was like, "Hey, look, when Shiloh, I think his name was Shiloh, my youngest boy grow up, I'm gonna let him. He gonna come. He gonna fulfill his brother's duty." And as soon as she walked away, Judah was like, "Yeah, nah, he ain't doing that because you done killed 2 of my sons." Nah. Yahuwah put this law in place so that there's nobody who could take advantage of the women. So anyway, this just goes back to being put away and divorced. To put away a woman means that you are not divorcing her. You kind of put her on the side, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that go with that. But to divorce one means that you've given her a certificate of divorce, and that's when you now she's free to go marry somebody else. So for Yahushua to highlight this is showing how like dirty and downright evil, just evil, the Pharisees were.
Man. And so, but to summarize it, marrying a divorced woman does not equate to adultery. You're not committing adultery if you marry a divorced woman. That is not what this is teaching. That is not what this is saying. So, y'all go ahead and y'all can dig deeper and look at the actual Greek words and y'all see what I'm saying. For time, we're not going to go that granular with it, but you'll see it. If y'all have any questions, just let us know. Any further questions on that? Because I know that was a big thing, boy. They went hard. There's still denominations to this day in the church that, they live and die by that doctrine. Oh, no, if you a woman has been married and that marriage don't work out, she can't never marry again. She's sealed forever, for life. Even if she get married at 20 and they get divorced at 24, and y'all know that happens a lot. You got Akio, you got women who get married too young. They get married when they 19. They might be divorced by they 25. Down they 25. Y'all got denomination. Oh, well, that means she just gonna have to be single forever because anybody who marry her, that's adultery. Because Matthew chapter 5, and then they go into this scripture without no, foundation in Torah, no understanding of none of that. They go straight to this when Yahushua's teaching from a Torah perspective, and that's why they miss it. That's why they miss what he's trying. He is trying to teach the disciples, basically, not to move like the Pharisees are moving. He is teaching directly against the ways the Pharisees move. But all right, keeping it going. So reading it again, verse 31. Furthermore, it has been said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. It's like what Bakir Sargon was saying. Listen, if you're trying to leave your wife, then you need to finalize it. You need to fully divorce her. But I say to you that whoever divorces his wife for any reason except sexual immorality causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a woman who is divorced commits adultery. But I say to you that whoever divorces his wife for any reason except sexual immorality causes her to commit adultery. So what Yahushua was teaching, because the Pharisees were just putting their women away left and right for whatever. So he's letting them know, hey, listen, whoever is you separating from your wives just for any reason. The only exception he was giving is sexual immorality is probably the only justifiable reason is to be just kicking your wife out for the most part and putting her away. You causing her to commit adultery because you putting her away and then you go on and move on to the next woman. She going years. We ain't talking. We looking at it from the ancient times. Oh yeah, they'll put away a wife and just never deal with her again. And so you cause her to commit adultery because what happens? Then she going to have needs. Some other dude going to come and want her or something. 5 years down the line, she going to mess with this other dude. Now she done committed adultery. This covenant stuff is real. We dealt with stuff like that in the assembly, y'all, where we had people, they might have been separated from their ex for 10 years, 15 years. And they thinking that it's through. And we're counseling them, and they're dealing with they're dealing with full covenants still attached to them. I'm talking ruachally. To where they got to do a lot of stuff to get that marriage is very big. It's a full covenant to where you seal that person. So if you don't get a full divorce that's finalized, that's solidified before you move on to another person, man, that can be adultery. And you can have that ruach upon you if you're not being careful. And the ruach of adultery is not no joke. It's a major breach that can cause all kind of issues in your life, for real. It causes all kind of issues in your finances. Ruach of adultery causes all kind of issues in your body. You'll mess around and, don't even know why, but you, let's say you just end up just sterile. You with this next person and don't know why. Y'all been trying for years, trying to have children. You don't know why. And it could be because you still are ruachally joined to another person because maybe you thought you would, you finalized a thing with them because you haven't been with them in years, your previous marriage, but y'all never did a finalized divorce. Maybe you never did like a finalized, solidified divorce. And so it's counted upon your ruach, your soul, as the adultery. And that's contributing to that breach that causing that ruach. That's making it to where you can't have children now, or the man is sterile because he has something like that on him. The list goes on and on and on. You have people who do crazy stuff when you're young. Let's say you were 18 and you went and eloped. Eloped means you just went and got married real quick with somebody you fell in love with. And let's say they did you wrong. Y'all broke up. It didn't even last a year. And it's 10 years later. Let's say you 30 now. Man, that was a long time ago. Y'all, you ain't never, man, you ain't seen this dude. You ain't had children with him or nothing. Y'all did lay with each other. Y'all did elope. Y'all got married. But y'all broke it off. Y'all separated, but you never finalized the divorce. And you thought you was through, and now you in your next relationship, and it's all kind of issues coming up. Y'all been trying. Y'all can't have no children. You don't know what's going on, why all of a sudden you despising him, because now you have these spirit spouses all over you because of the breach of adultery that's on you right now, that's on your soul. And you got so many spirit spouses, you can't even barely love the dude, you despise the dude. And you don't know what's going on, and you dig deeper, it's because of that. You still have adultery on your soul right now that you have to get delivered from, because you never finalize that thing with that other person. You have stuff that goes on where people come and they just get married just because they're trying to get they're from another country, and they're like, man, can you just marry me real quick so I can I don't want to get deported. You'll have, man, we seen this happen, man, being in Texas, man. You'll have dudes, they'll come, they'll pay, hey, listen, they'll get with a female, hey, listen, I'll pay you $5,000 if you just marry me. I'm just trying to get a green card. It ain't, you do what you want to do. I'm just trying to get a green card. If I'll pay you a few $1,000s if you just marry me on paper so I can get a marriage certificate showing I got married and I can stay in the country. Thinking you doing it through, you like Pablo or Pedro, you think he cool, y'all were friends, that was your coworker, you go, I'll do that, whatever. Especially he gonna give me a few $1,000s too, and then you do that, not realizing that's a whole covenant. And now you done opened up a door for all kind of breaches of ruachs to be dealing with you. I'm talking about you having issues in every relationship after that. And don't know why, and it's because you got adultery on your soul right now. Because you went and did that, and that wasn't nothing. I just, was doing that just for my friend because he just needed a green card. Man, listen. And then you come to, later on, you done found the Most High. You done came into this truth. You trying to serve Yahuwah, and we're talking to you, and we doing deliverance on you. You got ruach you got adultery all over your soul. And we wondering what have you been married before? No. Have you? Is that because the adultery keep coming up? We trying to see, has there anybody you messed with that was married before? We trying to figure it out. You're like, no. Oh, well, it was this one time when I was 19. It wasn't nothing. It was just dude. I just did it so you can get a green card. Huh? That's what it is. We gotta pray on, because you gotta do some things to be fully cleared from that covenant. That's a covenant. That's why you're having all these issues. That's why you haven't been able to lock down on no relationships and anything and all these things like that. And then then maybe they have to go through a process of trying to get all that solidified. Maybe try to go reach back out to the person, or they might, if they can't, you might have them do a certain thing, fast, write a certificate of divorce themselves and declare it in the Shamayim or whatever. The Most High to be praised. He's very merciful, and he wants his people to be clear. There may be some instruction behind it, but the point is showing the significance of that thing, the significance of these covenants. And so finalize your divorces, Mishpaga. I feel like I need to say this. Finalize your divorces, Mishpaga. I don't care if you've been married but been separated for 20 years and you think that's through because y'all ain't been together. No, finalize your divorces. Don't put stuff like that off. If you know you're not going to be back together with that person, if you know y'all are done, you go ahead and finalize it, because that's going to get in the way of anything you're trying to do in the future. In the Shamaim, you're still attached to that person until that divorce is finalized. Okay? I don't want to hear no, well, Babylonian, but that's a Babylonian paper and all this. Well, that's the avenue you went through though to get married. That's the avenue. You didn't choose to go. You didn't know better, so you went. That's the route you went to make that covenant. So that's the route you usually need to go to cut it off. You see what I'm saying? Now it's different if you went a different route to establish the covenant in the first place. You didn't. You went through Babylon to get it done. So listen, you do what you need to do to get it cut off, to get it finalized. If you know you're not with that person no more, you're not going to get with that person no more. If you're trying to move on and really, move on with your life now and move forward, especially in the Most High. I can't count the amount of issues that's going to cause in your life if you don't. I can't even count. You don't want them type of issues. We're talking we're talking about covenant stuff. Finalize your marriages. I don't care if this you were young, you were done, you made a big crazy stupid decision, you married somebody you didn't even know, you eloped and y'all been broke up. I don't care. The story is, it don't matter. If you got a legal marriage with somebody and you didn't finalize the divorce and you're not with that person no more, go ahead and do what you need to do. Get it finalized, Mishpacha. Hallelujah. All right. I ain't going to stay on that. Did you have anything else on that?
Yeah, let me tap it too real quick. Because see, what I'm hearing is that, okay, well, you changed your name, so you threw no. That's not how covenants work. Just because you changed your name does not mean that your covenant is now null and void. You have to go through the process of finalizing, because even if you did it in Babylon, covenants are not, they don't only pertain to certain nations. A covenant is a ruaco principle, but the thing that Babylon did is it did an excellent job of taking covenants and changing the word to a promise. A promise has no bearing, man. Like a real legit promise, that's nothing. But when you're talking about a covenant, when you're talking about signing your name on stuff, that's a major deal. So now I was just hearing that, just that well, that person is dead and gone and she no longer here, so my name is this now. Yeah, but you still in her body, so you still technically married. So you need to go make sure you get that taken all the way care of. But that's it. That's just what I was hearing as you was talking, because there's something with that. That's a message.
Yeah.
Body. That's not random. The Ruach fell on you with that.
Man. So we'll all right. So we'll keep that going. So, all right. Verse 33. Again, you have heard that it was said to those of old, "You shall not swear falsely, but shall perform your oaths to Adonai." But I say to you, do not swear at all, neither by the Shamaim, for it is Elua's throne, nor by the Eretz, for it is his footstool, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Nor shall you swear by your head, because you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your yes be yes, and your no, no. For whatever is more than these is from the evil one. And again, this goes into it says here it says here on the thing, Yahusha forbids oaths. I disagree with that. That's y'all gotta be careful with that, because that ain't in the the titles are not inspired. But again, this is he's talking in contrast to things that were said to those of old. This is going into different doctrines and things that, in ways the Pharisees were moving. They probably, did a lot of swearing on things and oaths and things like that. And, so Yahusha, there were oaths made in Torah, there were oaths made in the scriptures, and different things like that. There's a whole scripture on Numbers chapter 30 goes into, making different vows and oaths. That's Torah. So, that Yahusha is dealing with the Pharisees and the way that they basically move surrounding that. There were some ways that they were moving that just wasn't through trying to get people to swear oaths on everything. Probably, and they were making oaths on everything, et cetera, and probably just wasn't moving right with that. And so I submit that's really what this was all about. You know, he's letting the disciples say, let your yes be yes and your no be no. For whatever is more than these is from the evil one. He's just letting them know, yeah, the way the Pharisees is moving with all these oaths and stuff, they're not doing it they're not doing it right. I submit to y'all that's really what that boils down to. Verse 38, it says, you have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I believe that's Vayikra. Yeah, Vayikra 24, Exodus 21, Deuteronomy 19. But I tell you not to resist an evil person. But whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. So, okay, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, that is Torah. But that's referring to making judgments that if you know, when you make your judgment, it needs to be just, a balanced judgment. So it doesn't literally mean an eye for an eye, like, oh yeah, okay, the judgment is you got to give up your eyeball, fam, you know. But if you knock out somebody's eye, you got to pay, or you got your restitution or your judgment needs to be something that's equivalent, that's equivalent to that. It needs to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you think about, you know, whatever you think the value of that eye, yeah, okay, that's what you're going to have to pay that. Maybe that's the judgment. You're going to, you know, you might have to pay a couple million, or I don't know, you know, it needs to be based on the consequence needs to measure up to the offense. Okay, so for example, you know, in Torah, in the scriptures, if someone steals, it's not the death penalty for them, you know, but they have to repay, you know, maybe that same thing 5 times based on the item. You know, if someone takes your sheep, he has to repay it back with 5 sheep or something of that sort. I'm not, you know, I know it may not be specifically, I'm saying generally that's the idea. But there's some nations, like I think in some Arab countries, if you steal an apple, they'll like cut your hand off or something. That's an example of not doing the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. That's, you know, the consequence is not adding up to the offense. You know, if somebody's starving, they go and they steal an apple from the market, they probably shouldn't receive the death penalty for that. That's not equal. That's an unbalanced judgment based on the consequence. That's what the Torah principle of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Okay. But again, he's coming against the Pharisees because I submit they were taking these things and misinterpreting them and not really bringing them out, you know, properly. And so he says, you have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, but I tell you not to resist an evil person. But whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. If anyone wants to sue you and take away your tunic, let him have your cloak also. And whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give it to him who asks you, and from him who wants to borrow from you, do not turn away. Okay? So, you know, he's speaking in contrast to that. Like, yeah, y'all listen. Turn the other cheek to your brethren. Turn the other cheek to your mishpachah. Because I submit the eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth was something that the Pharisees were abusing. You know, they were abusing. And so Yeshua was telling them how to move in the midst of this very, very corrupt environment they were in. Very, I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Toxic environment they're in. Verse 43, you have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. That's what it was said. That's how you know that everything that was being said wasn't in Torah, because this ain't in Torah. You shall love your neighbors in the Torah, but then it says, and hate your enemy. That's not in the scriptures. So you see, this is the stuff the Pharisees talk. He said, you have heard it been said. He's talking about what the Pharisees been teaching. They'll add to the Torah, y'all. It don't say that. It don't say you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Yahushua's dealing with that. And he says, but I say to you Love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Yo, this is in Torah. Leviticus 19 tells you if your enemy, you know, a horse or animal falls into a pit, you shall surely help him. You know, the Torah teaches for you to love your enemies, Mitch Parker. But we know what it's talking about. The enemies means, you know, your enemies, you know, amongst your people, amongst your mishpaka. This ain't talking about nations you're going to war with. You know, there's different levels to this. You know, this ain't saying to love the Philistines when they coming and trying to take over Yasharal, trying to invade Jerusalem or something. No, the scriptures say love your enemy. It says turn the other cheek. That ain't the context. Now, this is talking about within your gates, your mishpaka, your neighbors who may be enemies to you. Love them. Turn the other cheek. You know, the list goes on. Go ahead.
Yeah, so because you keep hitting on the word "it was said," that's important to realize, Mishpah, because you know, if you remember at the beginning we talked about the book of Matthew, how the book of Matthew was most likely more so written to the Yahudim. It was written to those who knew the law. So what Yahushua is doing in this particular chapter is he's explaining the culture. Because Yahushua knew scripture. That's what, because you read other places, he says, and it was written of this, it was written of that. When he says, you have heard it said, he's addressing the oral traditions for the most part. There's some, because the oral traditions had the law mixed in with the practice of the law. Originally, through by deal. But what always happens is somebody gets power hungry. So then they begin to manipulate it. And this somebody in this scenario were the Pharisees, because you're not going to find. You can look through all the other synoptic. Synoptic just means like equaling, aligning the source. Look at Mark. Look at Luke. You're not going to find the quote unquote beatitudes in those other ones where he says and where he breaks it down like this. That's because Matthew was written particularly to the Yahudim. Now, what you will find is he'll say like in Luke 6, he'll say like, blessed are the poor, blessed are you who hunger, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you see that part. But this expansion of it, when he's like, hey, you're the salt of the earth and the Pharisees are doing these things, you're not going to find that in the text. You're not going to find that anywhere else, really. You'll see a little bit of it in Luke 6, but to this detail, you're just not going to find it, because this detail, what we're seeing here, is about the ways that the Pharisees were moving with the people. I just want to touch on one more thing, just real quick. So, let me go down real quick. The concept, when he's dealing with the culture, you have to understand that their culture was Torah. So there was never a question of whether or not the Torah should have been kept when Matthew 5 was being penned, or when he was explaining Matthew chapter 5. This was always something that was known. So when he's like, hey man, you should love your neighbor and hate your enemy, or when he says it was said that you should love your neighbor and hate your enemy, that's because that's what the Pharisees were beginning to teach. Because really, think about this, y'all. Why would the Pharisees be teaching people to love to hate their enemy? Their enemy was Rome, right? So why are the Pharisees saying, hey, you should hate Rome? I tell you why. Because they was in bed with Rome. That's why the Pharisees were saying, hey, man, you should hate Rome. Because they were the beneficiaries of them hating Rome. So, you know, you've seen the movies where I heard the stories and really, man, unfortunately read the history of an arms dealer playing like both sides of the war. So he's the one causing the conflict, but then he's also the one selling the weapons or whatever it may be that are needed to resolve it. That's kind of how the Pharisees were, because you can look in other places, and I'm just gonna quote the scripture for time, but you'll see them say something along the lines of when Yahushua was really at the height of his ministry. The Pharisees said, hey, you know, we have to make sure that we, you know, get rid of this man. It's better that one man should die than the whole nation perish. And you'll see that they say, because Rome might come and take our position. That's how you know they was in bed with Rome, man. They really weren't looking out for the people. They were benefiting from the people. It's interesting because some of the sons did a lesson. We had a little bit more of a youth focused Shabbat recently, and some of the sons were doing the lesson, and they were talking about bad shepherds. The Pharisees were bad shepherds, y'all. That's why what you'll start seeing that there's some kind of Torah mixed in this. Like, hey, you shouldn't be angry. You shouldn't divorce a woman. You should love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But all of that, y'all, was a mixed doctrine that the Pharisees were putting out there. So anyway, I just wanted to say that because Yahusha is dealing with the culture. He's dealing with the people who are in the midst of the culture. They knew Torah, but he's making like very distinct separations between it. So just keep that in mind.
Man. So nevertheless, so just reading this, keeping it going. Let's see. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Man, that you may be sons of your Father in Shalom. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the thub, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brethren only, what do you do more than others? Do not even the tax collectors do so? Therefore you shall be perfect, just as your Ab in the Shamayim is perfect. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. All right. So what we're going to do is do chapter 6 and then we'll be done. All right. So y'all know this is the continuation of chapter 5. He's still talking to the disciples, y'all. This is Yahusha's giving them like this very deep leadership council meeting in a sense, where he's just bringing out this revelation to the disciples. Y'all gotta understand this is groundbreaking revelation to them because they grew up under the teachings of the Pharisees. So they just like, wow, hold on, this makes sense, man, So it's kind of like us, y'all, when we grew up under this, in the church, and then we all of a sudden, this understanding from this truth come out, the understanding coming from, like the Melachim and these things, and you're just like, man, okay, wow, okay, So verse 1, take heed that you do not do your charitable deeds before men. See, he's continuing on because, listen, this is what the Pharisees did. The Pharisees were very charitable. He's saying, take heed that you do not do your charitable deeds before men to be seen by them. Otherwise, you have no reward from your Ab in the Shamayim. Why was he? So, this is why this was groundbreaking to them, because they thought, the disciples thought that the Pharisees were Kodesh. And Yahushua telling them this, and they're like, man, but this is wild. Because this is what the Pharisees, they be doing these big charitable events. Y'all know how it go. Y'all got people feeding the homeless with big old turkeys and the video cameras on them, and they're like, yeah, and so we're doing this. Or they'll be in Africa, and they're giving the Africans water, and you see them, they're on camera and they're doing all, and maybe the children are smiling while they're giving them, I don't know what, they're digging a well for them and giving them water, and they're making sure they're being seen. Yahushua like, don't do that. Generally speaking, yeah. Take heed that you do not do your charitable deeds before men to be seen by them. Now, this is what I'm not saying. I'm not saying because you were doing a charitable deed and somebody saw you, that mean that you wicked. No, but it's about the intentions of your heart. If the intentions is so that you can be seen by men, and then that's the issue. But no, if you're doing stuff for people and you don't gotta like, okay, hold on, make sure I gotta make sure I'm doing this and I'm not seeing, Sometimes you're not gonna be able to help, but people are gonna see you, But the difference is if you're purposely doing it to be seen, if that's the intention of your heart, is to be, celebrated by men, to be seen as important, as Kodesh, because you're doing these things, that's the issue. Verse 2, therefore, when you do a charitable deed, do not sound a trumpet before you as the hypocrites. Now, Yahushua throwing jabs, y'all. Who y'all think the hypocrites are? He's talking about a specific people, I submit. He ain't just talking, generally speaking, just hypocrites in general. No, he's talking about the Pharisees. I submit to you, the hypocrites are the Pharisees. That's who he's talking about. So now, he's throwing clear jabs. He said, therefore, when you do a charitable deed, do not sound a trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have kavod from men. Don't do that. Assuredly, I say to you, they have their reward. But when you do a charitable deed, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. That goes back to the body, Mishpachim. That your charitable deeds may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will himself reward you openly. Man, that's huge, y'all. So Yahuwah, he's deep. He looks at more than just that work you're doing, but he's looking at the intentions of the heart behind the work. He's not going to be through with you just because you're doing the work if the heart behind it is not through. You see what I'm saying? Like Yahuwah's ways are above our ways. We got to look at that. When you're doing a through deed, look past the deed. What is your intentions behind doing it? What is your heart behind doing it? You got to look at that. And when you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites. He talking about the hypocrites of the Pharisees, y'all. It's like Yahushua, like that's his name for the Pharisees. That's his name for the Pharisees. It's like the nickname for the Pharisees is the hypocrites. For they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the corner of the streets, that they may be seen by men. Assuredly, I say to you, they have their reward. But you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you have shut your door, pray your Ab who is in the secret place, and your Ab who sees in secret will reward you openly. Man. Yahusha is explaining the order that they're in versus the order that the Pharisees are in. He's explaining to them how to move. Y'all are going to move different than the order of the Pharisees. When you pray, this is how you're going to do it. Don't be like them when you pray. When you give, this is how you're going to do it. Don't do like them when you give, etc., etc., etc. And it's going to draw, what's going to happen, listen, and this, when we read further and further, you'll see this. What is going to happen over time is going to cause this divide between the Pharisees and the true order of the Shamayim, which is Yahusha and his followers. And it's going to cause this gap. It's going to be to where it's going to be evident that Yahuwah is with this other order that's not the Pharisees who everybody thought Yahuwah was with. Yahusha came, and I submit one of his biggest roles was to show the distinction between the people who Yahuwah is with, which is of course him and his followers, versus the Pharisees who tricked the masses to think that Yahuwah was with them. They deceived the masses to think Yahuwah was with them by doing what? By being super hypocritical.
Right.
That's why Yahuwah's all over this. He's all over them because they specifically and purposely tricked the masses to believe that Yahuwah was with them because of all these things they do externally. They're doing these things on purpose. They're praying for it to be seen on purpose because they want people to think Yahuwah's with them. Nah, the only people with them is Rome. Rome is with them, though. They did a great job of hiding, number one, that they're in bed with Rome. Because if everybody knew they was in bed with Rome, if everybody knew what was going on in the secret with the Pharisees, they wouldn't have no followers.
Facts.
Because Yahshua hated Rome. Yahshua hated Rome. So no, the Pharisees act like they acted like they was down for the people, y'all. It was just like an Al Sharpton or something, you know, they acted like they for the people. They did. And they did a great job at it. They acted like they was for Yahuwah and wasn't. But they did a great job at acting. They made sure their fringes was big. They made sure they had on the right garments. They made sure they screamed loud the Torah. They added to it. But they were so slick in the way they added to the Torah, it sounded like they was about the Torah. That's why Yahushua was addressing that stuff like, nah, they ain't really about that life, y'all. Listen. Listen. They not. I know you heard it said this, but no, I need y'all to move like this. Because they ain't moving, they hypocrites. And that's what's happening, y'all.
And they have received their reward. He said that twice. He says it in verse 2, like, hey, you know, when they do a charitable deed, they let everybody know it was done. They got their reward. And what their reward was just not notification, what's the word? My mind's slipping from it. Not notification, notoriety.
Notoriety,
yeah, they got the fame. They're like, oh, hey, that dude gave. Great job. Can you imagine you did all this giving, you did this thing to please Yahuwah, and your reward was somebody says you did a great job? Or let's look at what they say. What is it in verse 5? Don't pray like the hypocrites. That's funny. That's their nickname. Yeah, man. You was going in on the Pharisees. It's like his pet name for them. Hypocrites. They love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets that they might be seen. Okay, so what you desire is to be seen by men. Then that is your reward. And I submit y'all, that's why we have, you know, things set up the way that we do, even within what we call the truth, which, you know, man, I'm starting to, yeah, anyway. Because you got all these people with all these followers, man, and all they doing is lying to the people. They deceiving the people, and that's their reward. The followers are their reward. Now I see it because that's exactly what Yahushua is saying here. You know, the reward, he says, 'cause look in verse 4, he says, well, I started 3, but when you do your charitable deed, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, that your charitable deed may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Like the reward has to be from Yahuwah, not from man. And this is something that Paul challenges in Galatians 1 as well, in Colossians as well. Just like, man, who are you really doing these things for? Because if your reward is from Yahuwah, then you're going to wait and he's going to reward you openly. Like, can y'all imagine how that day is going to be when Yahuwah, he rewards Yasharel when the kingdom is returned? And then you see the throne set up, you see the gates set up, you see the stones, you see all these different things. Can you imagine looking from afar, sitting in darkness, like, oh, this was your reward. You already got your reward. You wanted somebody to say, great job. So you did all that. You wanted somebody to say, good job there. You did a great job with that. You know, I just want to let you know I really, really, really appreciate you. That's the reward that you got when the kingdom is sitting over there, man. When Yahushua's raining, you know what I'm saying? Light coming forth from the city, the trees are growing, the rivers are flowing. Man, that could be a scary thing, and that's what the Pharisees were doing. So it makes sense how you see the Talmudim or the disciples move throughout the rest of the brick shop. That was a great point you made about it being a divide between the Pharisees and the Talmudim, because then they begin to get these, or the disciples, they begin to get these secret things revealed to them. Yahuwah begin to reward them with wisdom and understanding, so much so that the Pharisees was like, man, hold on, man. Ain't y'all fishermen? How y'all got all this?
Yeah.
Where y'all get all this knowledge from? Why y'all get all this wisdom? How do y'all know what to do in the times? How do y'all know what to do when the time demands it? Because all they wanted to do was receive the kabod from man. So anyway, that stuck out to me because he said that 2 times. Man, don't let your reward be that somebody said do job. Don't do all this fasting and be telling people that you're fasting just so somebody can say, you did a great job fasting. But the rewards that are stored in the Shamayim, man, I'm telling y'all, it's worth more than a great job. And that's how you could tell who true shepherds are too, because they're really not gonna run around saying all the stuff that they do. You'll notice it. People will notice it on their own. Don't go around saying that you this, you that, you this, that, and the other, man. And anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that because I know we got to keep going, but I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, and there's more that they received. The Pharisees, their rewards, it was you have a good job, but also a big aspect of their reward was being accepted by Rome.
Gone.
Man, they received a lot. Listen, they received a lot of rewards from the oppressor. A lot. They had the highest positions. They had the money. All of Yasharal was poor. Y'all know that we always, when we're in captivity, we be downtrodden, we be poor. Then usually the heathen make it to where they systemically do things to keep us a certain level. So y'all know we was super poor under the Roman captivity. But the Pharisees were flourishing during that time. They had money, they had prestige, all that. They was through. I submit that's another aspect of what Yahusha was meaning by that. Oh, they received their reward. Y'all, they through. Hey, they received their reward. They're not getting nothing else. That's they Shamayim to them is to be cool with Rome and to get all them little benefits they getting for Rome. Okay. That's they Shamayim in a sense. But no, y'all are gonna be different. Y'all rewards are gonna come from me. See, Rome is their true allure. Rome is who they submitted to. That's their allure that they're getting their blessings from. Man. From staying in the status quo, doing the things, playing the game how they supposed to play. They receive their reward. But I want you to do these things this other way, and then your Ab in the Shamayim. Rome is they Ab. But you all are sons of Yahuwah. You all are sons of Allua. And so your rewards are coming from the Shamayim. So I need y'all to do these things this way instead, so that you receive your reward. You know what I'm saying? That's just another layer to it. Because, man, right now today, man, the heathen, a lot of the heathen, it's like they already in. They got their Shamayim is right here. Like, a lot of people, man, they in there. This is the kingdom for them.
Oh, facts.
This is their kingdom.
Facts. Right.
And so those are just some things to keep in mind, but we'll keep going though. We do got to keep it going. Let's see. All right. Verse 6, but you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Ab who is in the secret place. Man, that's through. And we know the secret place, it's a whole lot with that. Y'all know, Psalm 91, it's just a whole lot with that. The secret place is associated with the Kodesh HaKodeshim, the Holy of Holies. Is a secret place. The Holy of Holies, you only had, the high priest can go in there. It's a secret place because nobody been in there. Nobody can go there. It's a very intimate place with the Most High. Pray to your Ab who is in the secret place, and your Ab who sees in secret will reward you openly. And when you pray, do not use vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. So, chants. Y'all know other nations, they'll do chants and things like that, and they'll do different things like that. And so, but again, I want to emphasize that this is not speaking against, even if you are a little repetitive with your prayer, if it's genuinely to Yahuwah, Yahusha's not speaking against that, y'all. Again, he's talking about what the Pharisees are doing. That's why I want to keep emphasizing that, because people were developing whole doctrines out for this stuff, y'all. And Yahusha was talking to the disciples about things that they thought was through from the Pharisees. Yahusha's letting them know, don't do things like they do in these ways. When you pray, do not use vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. I submit the heathen are the Pharisees, y'all. For real. Yahusha going in, y'all, I'm telling you. Therefore, do not be like them, for your Ab knows the things you have need of before you ask him. In this manner, therefore, pray. So, the Pharisees were probably having big old elaborate prayers, real loud, a lot of vain repetition, and they weren't about that life at all. It was all show. This is the stuff Yahusha was speaking against. You know, praying, trying to do elaborate prayers really to be seen and heard. It ain't really like genuine to the Most High. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, in this manner, therefore, pray our in the Shamayim. Kodesh, what is it? Kodesh, Bahashem, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on the earth as it is in the Shamayim. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom, and power, and the kabod, forever. Amen. And you know, this prayer is deep. I know Malek Yahusha went in real deep on some of the stuff surrounding the daily bread. You know, how that's surrounded around that could be, you know, the showbread was a daily bread. I remember Malek Yahusha was going in on that. The table of showbread, that was the showbread, I believe they changed every day, I believe, something along that lines. So this whole prayer is very deep. There's a lot of layers to it. We're not going to go all the way. That's a whole, just going into that would be a whole prep day in and of itself, just going into this prayer. For real. But yeah, again, this is basically him, Yahusha, saying, don't be like the Pharisees, pray like this instead. As a matter of fact, say this specific prayer. And that's what it was, you know. We'll read it again. Everybody knows, a lot of y'all probably know this by memory. Our Father in the Shamayim, and it says, in this manner, therefore, pray. So you can look at this and saying pray in something like this, in this manner. Our Father in the Shamayim, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on the earth as it is in the Shamayim. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the kavod forever. Amen. And then he goes in and says, forgive men their trespasses. Your heavenly Ab will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Ab forgive your trespasses. So this goes again, I submit that's really big surrounding the Pharisees. It's really, really big, because they would be praying for forgiveness for stuff, but they were a very unforgiving people, very judgmental people. They hated their people, hated them. They hated their own people. Right. Very hypocritical. They went real hard against the tax collectors for being sellouts, but they were doing the same thing the tax collectors was doing. The tax collectors just opened with it. The tax collectors, yeah, they were in bed with Rome. Yeah, we talked about this before. The tax collectors sold out to Rome too. They were openly sold out to Rome though. They're like, yeah, look, the Romans want y'all need to give up this money now. The Pharisees was doing the same thing. They just did it in secret. But because the Pharisees knew the masses didn't know that they were in bed with Rome too, they would point their fingers and wag their fingers at the tax collectors. The Pharisees used to go hard against the tax collectors, even though they were just as bad, just as much of a sellout. And so, you know, if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you yours. If you were stealing, then somebody stole from you, but you're ready to take him out, how are you going to be forgiven for what you stole?
Man, they'll be waiting on you. Whatever judgment you pass will be waiting on you.
Yeah, if you was a sellout, but then you go hard on the next man for being a sellout too, how you going to be forgiven for the level of selling out that you did? What's the word I'm looking for? Of betrayal. that you did to your own people. Like we gotta, man, we gotta look at this. We gotta look at this.
Just real quick, just with uh Adon's prayer, man. There's a singular concept that runs through the entirety of this prayer, and it's really about surrendering. It's really about surrendering to Yahuwah. That's why he's like, "Hey, look, your kingdom come, your will be done." Because remember, he's contrasting this to the Pharisees. The Pharisees are kind of like, "Oh yeah, look at me, I'm great, I'm amazing, I'm pride." Well, they ain't say I was proudful, but there's another parable where Yahusha compares the Pharisees who would pray to someone who stood up, stood in the temple, held his head high, and then began to say, "Hey, I fast 5 times a week or 3 times a week. I'm amazing. I thank you for letting me be great." Whereas another man came, a tax collector, albeit, you just mentioned the tax collector. He came, would not even lift his eyes to the Shamayim. He bowed his head and he began to pray, "Man, forgive me. I know I'm a sinner." And he says, "Which one you think walked away justified?" Surely it was the tax collector that walked away justified, because there's a level of
Man,
surrendering that is required to pray in this manner. And I won't go through it, but I just want to say this because it's something I was talking about recently, just with several people. But in order to surrender, you must first possess, right? So if you want to, and what I mean by that is, if you want to surrender, we went on several topics earlier about adultery and all these different things. Let's say you're somebody who, if you struggle with control, right, you want to surrender your control. That's captured in verse 11 of Matthew chapter 6. He says, "Give us this day our daily bread." So really what this is referring to is how we are relying on Yahuwah at every level. Extreme, that's an uncomfortable thing. But let's just say you're dealing with control. You have to first possess that. Hey, look, I'm wrestling with this control thing. This is who I am. This is me. This is who I am. I'm wrestling with control. I need to surrender this to you. But a lot of times, what we'll do is we'll say, um, "Man, I got hit with this thought. Man, I got hit with the thought of adultery. That was just the enemy shooting at me. I don't know where that came from." But we never get to the point of surrendering those desires because we don't acknowledge that we have them.
man,
You have to acknowledge, man, like fiery darts. I was telling people this, man, in the house, that fiery darts have a target. There's nobody who's shooting an arrow and then they just like randomly fire the arrows. No, every arrow has a target. So you got to discover what that target is inside of you. You have to know what it is so that you can surrender it to Yahuwah. So this prayer that he's teaching people to pray, he says, pray in this manner is really a prayer about surrendering completely to him. Give us your kingdom come, your will be done. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts. Don't lead us into temptation. Deliver us from the evil one. The entire prayer is surrounded on their reliance on Yahuwah. I'm telling y'all, because I said this earlier, that I believe Yahusha came during the time period of Roman captivity, to show us how to handle Babylonian captivity, to show us how to handle it in this day, because there's so many similarities just between the two nations.
man,
So
that's real.
we got to make sure that we when we're reading this, we're kind of digesting it for the day. We're digesting it for where we are, and we're still working on surrendering, because we were taught not to surrender stuff, especially as a people. We were taught to take care of ourselves, possess your own soul, make sure that you're taken care of, take care, all of these things, which to some
Right.
extent are necessary. I'm not saying they're not, but we have to be okay being completely reliant on Yahuwah, because that's actually how this it's been like that since the beginning. Even when Jacob was named Israel, he got had his hip struck, and I was thinking about this. I'm like, man, why was his hip struck? And he was on the run from Esau. I submit one part of it was that he knew at this point he wasn't gonna get away from no Esau if he wasn't if Esau wanted to overtake him. He had to be completely reliant on Yahuwah for the rest of his life. And even from the point of him wrestling with the Malak to the point to where he stood before Pharaoh,
Mm-hmm.
he still had a limp hip. Jacob
Man.
was known for getting away from problems, but now his hip was struck. He had to sit in the midst of the problem and wait for Yahuwah to deliver him.
Mm.
So as a nation, I think that paints the picture of just kind of what we were always meant to be. Um, and I can tell y'all from like firsthand experience, I know a lot of y'all got the same experience. That can be a difficult thing to learn to sit and wait on Yahuwah to deliver you from things. So anyway, not to be too long-winded, but to go back to the prayer that Yahusha was teaching his disciples to learn to pray in this manner. That prayer is about complete submission to Yahuwah, and not this. What I'm not going to do is tell y'all that I mastered this, because had I mastered this, I would never ever argue. I wouldn't have no arguments in my marriage. I'd be the best father like possible, because I haven't learned to surrender everything. But this prayer is a daily reminder to surrender everything to Yahuwah. That's what stuck out to me in this part. I wanted to touch on that before you went on.
Man, no, that's dude. That is dude. All right, keeping it going. Let's see, verse 17, verse 16. Moreover, when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites. We know who the hypocrites are. With a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces that they may appear to men to be fasting.
There they go again.
Man, assuredly I say to you, they have their reward. There it goes again. Man. So this Yahusha is explaining to the disciples, listen, they masters at appearing to be so kodesh, so righteous. It's not, that ain't what it is. Y'all don't buy it. It ain't. They had their reward, and it ain't from us. It ain't from the shaman, they had their reward. But you, when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that you do not appear to men to be fasting, but to your Ab who is in the secret place, and your Ab who sees in secret will reward you openly. Now I want to speak on this because this is very interesting, because traditionally Israelites would sacrifice with sackcloth and ashes. And so this was kind of the opposite of that. He was saying in this situation, to anoint your head and wash your face. Anointing your head, I submit, is probably it's kind of like moisturizing your skin, like putting on lotion. You know what I'm saying? The opposite of doing like ashes in sackcloth. I submit the reason why Yahushua had these instructions for the disciples to do is because it was in direct opposition to the corruption of the Pharisees. They were overdoing it. Yeah, there were people in the scriptures who fasted with sackcloth and ashes. They were doing it the right way. They were doing it genuinely to the Most High. But since the Pharisees, they so big on, they disfiguring their faces, they probably did a whole lot of sackcloth and ashes, disfigure their faces, and on purpose, wanted to show everybody they're fasting by looking sad, maybe looking hungry, like, oh man, to try to appear. And the Most High, they already received their reward. Which is like what Bakir Sargon was saying, being seen and celebrated by men, being accepted as being Kodesh when that ain't what it is.
Man.
And ultimately, getting the rewards from Rome for being able to keep the status quo for so long. They received a reward, but verse 17, but when you fast, anoint your head, wash your face, so that you do not appear to men to be fasting, but to your Ab who's in a secret place, and your Ab who sees in secret will reward you openly. So, I do try to, move that way. If I'm doing a fast, I try to make sure that, doing it for the right reasons, and, be concealed with it, purposely make sure that, look normal. Do my best to not, be showing people that you're tired and, just things like that. So that's through practice. But on the extreme side, that don't mean that, your leaders, you make, because Yahushua said to do it in secret. And so, you're not telling us.
Lying and fasting.
You're not telling your spouse you married, your spouse wondering why, y'all not doing what y'all usually do at night. And you're like, I don't know, and because I can't tell my wife because Yahusha said so to be doing it in secret. No, y'all. This we got to understand it. Remember, the context is he's coming against the hypocrisy of the Pharisees. It's just about as long as you fasting, it's before Yahuwah. You got a right mind, right heart with it. You're not out there wilding like the Pharisees. You should pretty much be through. It's all right for your wife to know. If you fasting. If you, in one of the order, if you're in the order, if you're in the tribe, you want to let your leaders know just so they know what's going on. You wouldn't be like breaking like a commandment or something or doing it wrong. It's just, again, y'all you just got to understand the balance with everything and what's really being taught. You got to understand our heart is just it's a teaching against hypocrisy. Don't be just doing stuff on purpose to be seen. You're doing stuff because you want people to be like, oh, he's so righteous, and, stuff like that. Verse 19, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on the earths. All right, now, after we've been talking, now y'all really see why he's bringing this up, don't y'all? We've been talking about how the Pharisees, you should say they received their reward. They got all that money. They got all that fame. Because they sold out to Rome, they made these deals with the government at that time, the heathen. That's probably why Yahushua was calling them heathen, because once you make covenants and agreements with the heathen, you basically are them now. That's why they trust you to lead now, because you're an extension of them now. You're them. Do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in the Shamaim, where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
Man.
This takes this to a whole nother level, doesn't it? On what he's really saying now when you read the whole context of the in the heart of what he's saying and who he's talking to.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking to the disciples, and he's telling them, y'all basically don't be like the Pharisees. They lay up their treasures on earth. They putting all their stock on in this place. No. Don't do like that. No, y'all are going to be different. Lay up for yourselves the treasures in the Shamaim. See what I'm saying? Well, neither thing, that don't corrupt. That don't go away. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. All right, let's keep it going, though.
Man,
You had something? Go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick. I used to think that lay up your treasures in the Shamaim meant that you don't get nothing down here. And everything is in the Shamaim, so that when you die, you're going to walk into this house and you're going to see a brand new PlayStation, whole new Xbox, 75-inch flat screen. You know what I'm saying? But nah, I'm not sure that means that now. I think what this really is pointing to is the ability to allow Yahuwah to bless you versus man. To lay up in the Shamayim, to say, because let me finish that thought. To lay up in the Shamayim all these things that your works will produce. Because this is, man, I've really been thinking on this lately, and I ain't gonna go into all the details for time. And I'm definitely, man, I could chop up the scriptures all day and night. So, y'all want to hit me up, that's fine. But the concept of like this not really getting lost in the present, because when I think about promises, like Yahuwah deals with Israel through a promise. That's why even with the birthright, I'm just touch on that because you've been teaching on birthright lately. Even with the birthright, the reason that you will lose your birthright is because you store up treasures in the earth. Because the birthright is what activates the treasures that are stored in the Shamaim that are waiting for you. But it takes patience to get to that point. It takes immunity to get to that point. It takes hope to get to that point. And it's all these things who have been showing me this week about that. That again, I can't go all the way into it just yet, but well, just for time's sake. But the Pharisees, I would submit that they won Israel. We know that. But if they they would have given up their birthright. Oh snap. Man, the Pharisees was Esau. That
Oh,
makes
snap.
sense.
Yeah, that makes
They
sense.
gave up their
Man,
birthright.
that's it.
That's so the same thing that Esau was doing, like, give me this lentil soup right now. It's the same thing the Pharisees did when they said, "Hey, tell me I did a good job praying." You saw how long? Hey man, you saw how long that prayer was? Did you see that? Did you see that? Hey, you saw Sister So and So shout for joy when I said that, right? That was through. You see, you catch up. That's the same thing they was doing. They did exactly what they daddy did. They gave up eternity for the sake of the moment. And man, we have mastered doing that, giving up eternity for the sake of the moment. But see, when you do these things in the secret, this is what Yahusha was saying. Man, this makes a lot of sense now. Oh man, this makes sense. When you do these things, you're relying on Yahuwah to reward you. It's not, I don't think it's this thing where you get to Shamayim and then all boom, treasure chest, right? I think it's these things that roll up because in Malachi, he says, see that I will not open up the windows of the Shamayim and pour out blessings on you. So the blessings come from the things that are done in secret. So what you are reading right here now, man, this thing really starting to make sense to me. Um,
Man.
but it takes not being overly focused on the present. Um, I'll say this real quick. I'm just gonna read this real quick. Let's see. Y'all gonna be through. We here now. Look, man. You look, y'all. I know y'all went to see the Avatar movie. I know you ain't even gotta say y'all done seen it. That movie about 10 hours long. My Isha fell asleep, woke up, and fell asleep again, woke up and fell asleep again. So, man, it's gonna be through. So, I'm just gonna read this real quick. This is just from prayer name. Um, just one piece. It says we can remember. Okay, so the kabod of Yahuwah can only be experienced in the present. We can remember it in the past and hope for it in the future, but it's only in the now that we can experience it. So one way to make sure you don't give up your birthright in the now, in the sense of like wanting people to praise you now or wanting people to pour these things into your hands right now, is by recognizing that, man, the Kabod of Yahuwah exists right now. It's just about slowing down enough to see it. Because if you could slow down and really think through what's happening, you won't give up your birthright for these things that happen to you in the moment. There's just a lot to that, but now it's just starting to click why the Pharisees was like this, because they had gotten into the habit of, see, Rome rewards me right now if I do this thing, but Yahuwah, he gonna reward me later because he gonna want to see if I'm gonna be faithful with it. He gonna want to see, because this is what we'll do. Now I'm gonna stop after this. This is what we'll do when we get into any kind of predicament, man. We are, man, we'll do whatever we need to do to get out.
For
But
real.
Yahuwah is not interested in these one-time obedient moments. He wants to see if we're going to continually obey, if we're going to follow him consistently. Like, for example, the podcast, the midrash. Y'all know how long the midrash been going?
Man.
We saw started in Genesis chapter 1. What we in now? We in like yes, as the book of Isaiah,
Man.
without skipping books and chapters. It's about consistency. That's why you'll see certain levels of blessings pour out. But see, Babylon taught you to do it right now and will reward you right now. The danger with that is when you get into the cycle of your rewards being in the now, you begin to lose sight on the things that are eternal, the things that actually don't run out. But see, moths, because I thought about this because we had a moth fly around. I was like, man, that's exactly what Yahushua was talking
Oh,
about.
man. That's what
Moths and stuff, man, they come and then they consume your gift. That's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. There's no nation that lasts forever. Nations fall, empires rise and fall, kings rise and fall, and Yahuwah directs it all. But if you can learn to store your treasures in the Shamayim, it's like it's the difference between owning a river and having a pipe. You know what I'm saying? But all right, I'm gonna stop at that because there's a lot more to that. And, you know, I know y'all watched Avatar, but we ain't Avatar, so I don't want to push our luck. People start falling asleep.
All right. So no, that's through now. Keeping it going. So verse 22, the lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is through, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? All right, so the lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is through, your whole body will be full of light. So this is again, listen, this is going back on what we were talking about, what Yahushua was bringing. I'll submit this is related to Yahushua was talking about in chapter 5. How if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. He says the lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is through, what happens? Your whole body will be full of light. So if the eye is through, the whole body will be through. But it says, but if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. He's talking about the Pharisees. Like, man, listen, if the heads of the order are corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. He basically saying, look, listen, disciples, I know y'all were used to all your life. Y'all been following the Pharisees. Listen, they not through.
Man.
They not. They not through. He said, but if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? He basically, I submit, he's explaining the magnitude of the wickedness surrounding the body currently. It's basically Yasharal, the Pharisees probably represent the eyes, and then the whole body probably represents just a Yasharal overall. But the Pharisees were like the heads, they were the leaders, they were like the eyes. And so because they were wicked, the whole nation is corrupt. The whole nation is in iniquity. You see what I'm saying? And man, that was very strong. That had to been a tough, tough word for them to, because again, we can read, we know that, I know this, y'all probably know the story. I know like people like Peter, he was, man, he followed the Pharisees. He still had to get a lot of correction even after Yahushua resurrected on certain doctrines and stuff. He was still following. That was from the Pharisees, and this was I'm talking about Yahushua, that was one of his main top dogs. Kepha, that was one of Yahusha's main dudes, you know what I'm saying? And so this is just showing you the magnitude of their influence during these times. Verse 24, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve Alua and Mammon. Okay, so all right. Again, Yahushua is throwing jabs at how the Pharisees, their loyalty. You can't, if your loyalty is to Rome, if your devotion is to the world, there's no way you can serve Yahuwah. There's no way you can serve two masters. What Yahushua is letting them know is that their master, their Adon, what I was saying, this confirms what I was saying earlier. Their Ab is Rome. And can't serve two masters. I know you thought that it was just talking about serving money. No, it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. The reason why they're giving over to serving their flesh and serving money is because their Ab is not Yahuwah. Their master is Rome. And that's the ways of Rome. That's the ways of Babylon, is to serve money. That's the ways of this world. Listen, that's the same for y'all. If you decide to not come out of Babylon, if you decide to let Babylon be your master, you're going to be a servant for the American dream. The house with the picket fence and the constant pursuit of money and whatever else to fulfill your flesh. That's because that's the way of this world. And you cannot serve two masters. You're either going to serve one, despise the other, serve the other, and hate the one. That's why, no wonder why the Pharisees hate the people. They hate their own people. You had anything on that?
No, I don't have nothing on that. That's it right there. I mean, there's a whole lot we say, but I think I'm through.
Like, man, That's stuff y'all got to ask yourself. Who choose whom you will serve? It's your choice, kind of. Choose whom you will serve, because you can't serve both. If you decide to serve Babylon, you're going to hate, man. Listen, you're going to hate the Most High and his people. You're going to definitely hate his people at least. All right, verse 25. Therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Abba feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? He's talking to the disciples. He's not talking to everybody, okay? Let's keep that in mind. Which of you by worrying can add 1 cubit to his stature? So why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. This is huge. So he's basically talking to the Pharisees, y'all. I mean, to the disciples, y'all don't worry about that type of stuff. Don't worry about that type of stuff, okay? Y'all are gonna move different. The Pharisees, the people, you know, the rest of the people, the heathen are super focused on, hyper focused on that. You and I don't want y'all to worry about none of that. He says, so why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And yet I say to you that even Solomon in all his kabod was not arrayed like one of these. Now if Allah so clothes the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little emunah? Therefore do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? So it's almost like Yahusha saw through them certain things they were worried about. Because, you know, they had given themselves over to Yahusha. Some of them left their jobs, y'all. Y'all know Kepha and them left their jobs. They were fishermen. They got up and said, nah, we'll follow you. They quit. And there's a reason why Yahusha's talking to them about this. Probably was some of their meditations. He even kind of rebuked them a little bit, you know, or corrected them, I should say. Oh, you a little faith? Why y'all little worried about that? Don't worry about that. Therefore, do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? That's probably exactly what they were saying within themselves or amongst each other. For after all these things the heathen or the Gentiles seek, for your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. But seek first the kingdom of Allah and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. He's talking to the disciples, y'all, who are about to go on this ministry on his behalf. That doesn't mean that this doesn't apply to y'all or anyone else, but we still want to understand what's going on in the context surrounding this to get a better understanding of this passage. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. So, you know, the disciples, y'all know, Yahusha would send them out, y'all, and he would just tell them to go to the house. If they receive you, you know, they'll give you food and stuff. Like, they went out and they had to fully just depend on Yahuwah on their day to day, y'all. This is who Yahusha was talking to the disciples about this. About not worrying about your clothes, not worrying about these things. Because he's talking to a people who done left everything to follow him. The rich young ruler, Yahusha told the rich young ruler to do the same thing. He couldn't do it. But I submit one of the things that the disciples had to do to really rid themselves from the ways of Babylon, they had to really have that immunity to just follow him, follow Yahusha, to leave everything. What I'm not saying is for any of y'all to, you know, like leave y'all jobs or do nothing like that. Because you say, man, I'm doing this for Yahusha. No, that ain't the same thing.
Hey man, that thing rough.
This was a very specific time in history where the kingdom was at hand, and man, Yahuwah, he sent his son into the earth realm to move during this specific time. And Yahusha called these specific people, they were called to follow him, and they did it. And they had to just move an MU now. And Yahusha said, listen, don't worry about, this is like a leadership meeting that we just happened to have. It was recorded by, it was a scribe who recorded it. And so we just happened to have the information of this meeting. That's what these chapters are that we're reading right now. He's telling them, y'all don't worry about what you're going to eat and all that stuff. Don't worry about that. Don't the heathen worry about that? Y'all just seek first the kingdom. Just continue to do the things of the kingdom. All that'll be added to you. So basically, listen, focus and do the ministry work that's out for you to do, and you're going to be through. Yeah, all that other stuff will come. And that was true. When you read the story, you'll see how man, they will go out and they'll be through. They'll be covered. They might go out, they might have their clothes on their back. It reminds me of Yaakov, when his family had told Yaakov to go up to Laban's house, which was a very long trip, and all he had was his staff. You know what Yaakov did? He prayed to you and said, if you just cover me and make sure that I have food and clothes, I'll tithe to you, everything that I receive. That was his prayer, and then he moved on Immunah. And you know what he did? He moved to to get his bride. That was the mission, to go get a wife from Laban's house. Laban means white. To go over there and to get a bride. It was basically seeking the kingdom. He was going over there. We was talking about this. On the last No Hebrew Left Behind, I believe, because we didn't have one this week. Yeah, so it was the last one. Yaakov, he went out to carry out the birthright. He went out seeking ye first the kingdom. He did. He went out to go build the kingdom. Yaakov. Because that was what was happening. Once he found the wives, it was time for the kingdom. He found Leah and Raquel, Zilpah and Bilhah, and then he had those children. Those children was made Yasharal. What if he would have been like, oh man, but what would happen? I don't even have no money. I don't have nothing but this staff. Well, man, that would be crazy to do that. Man, like, it might not have never been no kingdom of Yasharal. But Yahuwah would have called something, Yahuwah's will was going to be done, of course. But my point is, Yaakov's Immunah, and just moving and doing what Yahuwah wanted him to do, even though it didn't seem like the wisest thing to do, is what caused the kingdom to be brought forth, the nation to be brought forward. You see what I'm saying? And so, a principle to learn from this, look at when reading this, is the importance of trusting Yahuwah. Don't be like the heathen. Don't be like the Pharisees, where their focus is on money and prestige and gain. Yeah, they look like they doing through from the surface, but do like the disciples. What their focus and the seeking is of the kingdom, and whatever the goal or role is that Yahuwah has for you to do. Seek ye first that. Focus on that. And then all those other things will be added to you. What are the things Yahuwah has had already told for you to do? What are the things he has set apart for you to do? Did he tell you to write a book? Maybe he told you to list goes on, start a business. Maybe he told whatever it is, that the seed that he planted in your heart that he told you to do, think about those things and seek those things first. Get those things going. Move forward. Oh, well, I don't have this. I don't have that. Move forward. Seek first the kingdom, and all the other stuff will be added. But told out to Yahuwah and Husha. Most High willing, we will do this again, I believe, next week. I wanted to explain to y'all. I know we used to do the prep days every week. Right now, we're doing first and fourth Yom Shishi. That's Friday, first and fourth. It's the same with Midrash as well. We're doing first and fourth, I believe. I'll let y'all know the day on that. We got to work through that, the exact day. But most high willing, we plan to get back on Midrash, I believe, next week. So I know some of y'all had asked, and I want to, communicate that to y'all so y'all kind of have an idea. But I believe we'll be doing fifth weeks as well. Whenever the fifth week in a month, that's not 100% set in stone, but it should be for sure the first and fourth weeks though. And so right now, and so we, they're a little longer when we do meet, but also keep in mind we're not meeting every week anymore either. So we might cover more during the times we do meet because of that. So, but total for y'all hang in there. Let's see what y'all got here in the comments. Let's see what it's gonna be. Let's see what y'all got here. Let's see. Kenry Lamar and Shalom, fam. He said, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. That's real talk. I can't remember what scripture that was in, but yeah, that's real talk though. That's the bread, that's a teaching. Let's see. Kun Rakam Yahoo said, tell him Bakir Sargon, fill it up and ask Yahuwah to fill you at the same time. Man, Khan. Malaki Al-Hilawal said, pleasant surprise. Shalom, all hallelujah. All praise to the Most High. Mastermind, 1988. He put in Hayah. Strong's Hebrew H1961. Hebrew word used in Matthew 5:18. Torah Rabbah. Yeah, that confirmed what Bakir Sargon brought out as well. All right. Amoria, shalom to you. He said, my question is, what kind of captivity was wrong? Was it enslavement through free labor, tax oppression, indentured servitude, or the mental captivity? The mental captivity, Willie Lynch slavery, like what we see today. That's a through question, Amoria. So the Roman captivity was very similar to this captivity. The only difference is that they were still in a land, though. But the Roman captivity was not like a chattel slavery, I guess is the best way to explain it. So the Roman captivity was very similar, like what Bakir Sargon was saying, to how it was in Babylon. It was not a chattel slavery. So what did that mean? That meant that the children of Israel were still able to work, get jobs. They were still even able to practice, quote unquote, their religion to a certain extent. That's what the Pharisees are for. They were able to practice their religion under strict supervision, okay? That's what the Pharisees were there for. You know what I'm saying? Or at least that's what they developed into. I don't know if I think they had through intentions in the beginning. But, once the captivity got strong, especially after that stuff with the Maccabees and all that with the Greeks and, stuff, the transition to Rome, it developed into them just being an extension of Rome to keep things, the status quo in place, to keep things in line and in order, keep from insurrections happening, things like that. All right. So nevertheless, the to answer your question though, so like here in America, we can work jobs, we can go and buy homes. We're in captivity though. We even have people who are Israelites by nationality who have high positions, high roles, high jobs. That's how it was during the captivity of Rome, but Rome was very oppressive in that, they systematically kept Yasharal poor. You had individuals who did well, but the masses were poor, y'all, oppressed, were very poor. That's the best way to explain it. Just think about how it is here. That's generally how it was there. The Roman soldiers, they were just like how the police out here, very oppressive to the Hebrews, killing people. The Roman soldiers were basically like the police here. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to think of what else to kind of paint a picture, but that's basically, generally speaking, how it was. It was not a chattel slavery is like how it was in the beginning of the captivity here, where we were all in chains and whips and chains, like how it was in Mitzrayim in the scriptures. That's more like what we call a chattel slavery, and it was not that. That's why Keith and them, they had jobs. Peter and them, Yahushua was able to walk around, teach. It wasn't on. It was like it is in America today. Yeah, you had some Hebrews who loved it. That's, the Pharisees, they wanted things to stay like it was. So yeah, you wouldn't see that in a chattel slavery situation. Did you have something on that, Bakir Sargon?
No, you hit it. That's it. That's how it was.
Yeah, through question. She also asked the mental captivity, Willie Lynch slavery, like what we see today. Oh, okay, yeah, that was an extension of that question. Kimberly Lamar Richardson said, it's frightening how adultery has been the norm and now even a trend amongst our people. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I even, unfortunately had a lot of that stuff, even in my family, with family members and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. This 2 Corinthians 10:5, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of Elohim, and bringing into captivity every thought into the obedience of man. That's through right there. That's through. Kimberly Lamar said, I was in Alias. I didn't know you was in Houston. I thought, oh man, you was in Alias? Yeah. Very familiar with Alias, man, on the Southwest. And attending Lakewood for 3 to 4 months. Yeah, you wasn't too far. Yeah, the SWATs. Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, everybody moving out of Alias. Alias changing. But yeah, you was a lot closer to Lakewood than me. I was on the northwest side. So yeah. It's a lot closer, but that's Stube, though. That's Stube. But Amina said, Shalom, fam, piping and aim in Dallas, but abstained from going to Potter's house. Now I see why. I used to go to the Potter's house, too. Every time I went to visit Dallas, I would try, if I was there on the Yom Rishon, I would go visit the Potter's house. So I've been to TDJ's church at least about maybe 3 to 5 times. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah. But I never lived in Dallas, so it was just always to visit. Because, man, when I was in the church, I used to follow them on TV and stuff. Yeah. Ahavatar Elisheba said, reminds me of Akan in Yahusha chapter 7, I think. Oh, yeah, he took out the Kodesh things. Yeah. Kimberly Lamar Richardson said, the foot can still have influence on members of the body, sometimes on the hands. Aharon was influenced when told to make Elohim. Man, that's a through point, man, for real. It's a real through point. That's real talk. That's real talk. Hanuk, he said, Zaythu, Bakir Sargon, fire. I'll praise to the Most High.
In the building.
Yeah.
Shout out Augusta. Shalom.
Dedicated. Yeah.
The scribe.
Yes, sir. Let's see. Nakama Yahoo said, Torah for clarifying divorce versus putting away. Most definitely. I know that was a big one. They used to have me years ago. They just had my mind like, hold on, this doesn't line up with Torah. There's got to be something here, Like, man. I was looking at that for years. I was thankful to Yahuwah when he gave me that, with the understanding, looking through some sources and things like that. All right. Nakama Yahoo said, I used to be a member of a church where a divorced woman could not remarry. Yeah, that was a big thing in the church. Big thing. And it's really unfortunate, for real. Really, really unfortunate because, man, that's kind of oppressive to women, because, man, listen, man, especially in this captivity, you got a lot of archeo. They had really good intentions to get married, and, it don't work out. They get married and the dude wild out. You know, they find, you know, people, you know, man, we in this captivity, we was very misguided people. So you got a lot of women, they might have got married when they was 20, 21 to the wrong person. What kind of through decision you gonna make at 20, 21? And then, you know, by surprise, it don't work out. That ain't no surprise. Most people are not able to make through decisions that young. That's why in the scriptures, the parents married the children. They chose the spouse. We didn't have that culture in Babylon. We were going out to the club, meet somebody, and you fall in love, and, you know, y'all dating for a couple years, you decide to get married. Their whole relationship was toxic when you get married anyway. Just horrible decisions. And now it ends in divorce, and now you can't remarry? Man, that's crazy. That's crazy, y'all. And so, you know, I'm glad we was able to clarify that. Ivan Yahukanan Little, Shalom, he said, Khan in the covenant was made within their flesh. Khan. Ladarius Dotson, repent and PR. 798 said, Shalom and blessings. That Arab thing is true. Also, Uriah did die in battle. So that would make both instances that were mentioned had deceased spouses. Actually, Ladarius, we also mentioned Michal, the husband, was not deceased in that situation. So there was, you know, that wasn't in every situation. Dawid took a wife. This is a more obscure story, but he was supposed to have. This was a woman he was supposed to have from the beginning, but Saul didn't give her to him. He married her to somebody else, and then, you know, push came to shove, some events happened, and down the road, Dawid went on and took her back. You know, they had to, you know, they had to cut that, you know, sever that relationship with the other husband, and then he had took her back. And so in that instance, you know, there was no, like, the husband wasn't deceased, none of that. You see what I'm saying? So that's what we referred to the, you know, to the other situation too. With I wasn't referring to Uriah the Hittite. I was thinking about Abigail. That's what I was thinking about. Abigail, but, you know, Nabal died. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, there's just some things to think about. You know, that's still not, you know, it's not super clear, but it's just some other examples. Kerry Lamar Richardson said, Khan, eyes have not seen nor ears have heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which Alua hath prepared for them that love him. Hallelujah. Chan F4 said, fleecing the flock can mean so much, but I just was considering the removing of covering from the sheep. Turning people from praising Yahuwah to praising you is to remove the covering of the people. That's a through point. Chan F4, a through point. Kimberly Lamar Richardson said, Khan, John 8:37, I know that ye are Abraham's seed, not Yaakov, but ye seek to kill me because my word hath no place in you. Man, that's it. Yeah, you go right there. That's it. That's it. Amiri 1920 said, through prep day, it got kind of creepy for a minute because it felt like y'all were talking about random recent things that has went or is going on in my life. It be like that, Amiri. It be like that, for real. But told out to Yahuwah and Yahusha. And Ladarius Dodson, repent. And DPR said, Khan, hallelujah. I appreciate that clarity. Most definitely, most definitely. Told out to Yahuwah and Yahusha. But all praise to the Most High, y'all. Much ahavah. Most High willing, we'll do this again. I believe it's next week when we're gonna do this again.
Mm-hmm. Next week.
But but nevertheless, y'all stay blessed. Y'all be praying. I know this freeze is supposed to be coming to Texas, you know, tomorrow. But Yahuwah's in control. Hopefully y'all did some prepping, cause we prepping on that prep day, ain't we? You know, we prepping root broccoli. You know what I'm saying? We prepping on that prep day, but nevertheless, we love y'all. Much ahavah. If y'all have any questions, let us know. But lakam la shalom.
Lakam la shalom. La